Okay, good evening. Welcome to the June 8th Palmer Town Council meeting. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is visitors' comments. Is anyone that would like to
Where's Butch?
come forward? Sandy?
Sandy Noonan of King Street and Condo.
No, you gotta come to the microphone. People can't hear you if they're watching from home.
So if we have a question on the budget, do we wait until that time
Yes.
to speak? Okay,
There'll
thank
be a
you.
public hearing, yep. Anybody else? Seeing no one. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of May 11th. I did have a couple things, actually. So under the town clerk, Ollie's, it has two L's for Ollie's Law. When you reference the voting locations, you have St. Peter and Paul, you might want to put Divine Mercy Parish, and then in parentheses maybe, formerly St. Peter and Paul, just so there's no confusion, because it's not that anymore. On resolution 2026-24, there's a line that says, Seaburn states the purchase would allow each officer to have their own assigned rifle instead, and you have a pool of vehicles, so pool of rifles. And then let's see. There's a section. So resolution 2026-26. There was a question asked about the antennas, and then it just says, I believe they are 12 years, but there's really no question there. So either remove it or add the question, which I expect was that the last time we did some improvements. Matt, I think that was you. Do you remember?
I can't remember the exact question,
But it's
though.
something to
Okay,
do,
I'll
it
review
was
it.
something
I was
like
gonna
that,
say.
yeah.
Don't ask
Things to
that.
impact, I can review it quickly.
Yes, that was all I had, but thank you. Did anybody else have anything?
No.
Do you have a motion to approve with the amendments?
Make a motion.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, one abstention. The next item is old business, Commerce Middle School 24 Converse Street RFP results.
Yep,
Brad.
so, as you guys know, last month we had the bid opening. Unfortunately, we did not receive a bid. I did get some feedback that I will provide to you all in executive session, just so it's a little bit more confidential, from the vendors who were interested, but we had 5 parties take out the RFP, of which 2 really showed, interest, but there's some factors that, they would like us to review and talk about that, limit them, prohibit them from submitting a bid right now. So we'll talk more in executive, but that's the backup on that.
Everybody good?
Yep.
Okay, next item is Country Lane update.
Ash is gonna take this one.
So when we went to research the property further at 8 Country Lane, parcel ID at 141710, we discovered the property was potentially misappropriated as property of the town of Palmer. The team members and I have gone through the handing of deeds back to 1911, where it seems the parcel was broken off the larger one in the back, number 14179, and sold to New England Telephone and Telegraph Company. Since that company no longer exists, we are researching the next steps.
So this won't be moving forward anytime soon then, I'm assuming?
We
Like,
hope within a couple
hoping-
months we can narrow it down,
But
but
not, like,
there's no
not
action
tomorrow.
tonight, exactly.
Unfortunately.
Give it to the other people. Why not me?
Okay. Becky, I know you're here for that. Do you have any questions that, no, I kind of Okay, just wanted to
Sorry about that.
make sure.
No problem.
Yeah, we didn't wanna, we don't wanna It is, and that was a part of the problem is we don't want to go forward with the sale and then get to the finish line and then all of a sudden have to unwind everything we just did. So we'd rather do it right up front. Unfortunately, it takes time, but yep, you're good.
Okay. Next, we have Resolution 2026-27 to approve, you can stay if you want.
Couldn't get out quick enough.
I know. Approve revisions to the group health and life insurance policy.
So this is one we talked about last month, and we asked to bring it back with a few additional edits to it. So I'll go over those quickly. So in your packet, you have the proposed document. On page 2, there is an opt-out incentive program for active employees as outlined in Appendix A. It's just in draft format in Appendix A, but if it's approved by you guys, we'll put it into final version. The rates proposed for the opt-out are a $3,000 family and $1,500 individual. The program shall automatically renew unless the council, in its sole discretion, votes to suspend or eliminate the program prior to April 15th with a termination date of July 1st. So if we move forward with this, we're giving advance notice to everyone that we're terminating the program. It gives them time to hop on our insurance plan through the open enrollment period. And there's 2 scenarios on this that we can go through. I'm not sold on either way, but I will say one of the concerns on this is if we do opt into this, is, and I mentioned this before, is the liability of our overall program. If we have healthy individuals opt out of this program, our liability for insurance could still be significantly high, and it'll just change into, it gets passed on. No matter what, we have to cover our liability. So that would then be shifted to a smaller group of individuals or plan participants, that the rate will actually significantly increase for the group that's still remaining. So that's one negative to this, possible negative to this option. But the other alternative too is that we could walk from this year and we could come back the following. And why I'm even putting that on the table is we're a little bit late in the game for individuals to seek out other options. Usually you want to do this well in advance, so when they have open enrollment periods, they can review what plan they can jump on. Now with how close we are to the fiscal year, it's a tight window for someone to research and then drop from our plan. So we could also delay this and talk about it next fiscal year, or we could just scratch it and walk from it altogether, or you can approve it as is.
Just this part, right?
Just this one section,
Okay,
yeah.
just
I
making
figured
sure.
honestly, it's easier to go section by section for
Yep.
the proposals, so we can weigh in and then move on to the next one. So I'll entertain any questions, or you guys can discuss this specific piece.
Any questions on the opt-out?
I don't have questions.
Any comments on the opt-out?
I agree with him.
I agree with Brad, your comments about how the issue of passing on the liability to other employees. It's kind of like why towns don't offer a +1 plan where it's, you plus a spouse on a plan, is because then it disproportionately impacts other folks who take a family plan specifically. And it's not a common practice in Massachusetts to have opt-out incentive programs. Because typically the pool of employees is not large enough to mitigate any, impact to other folks who are on the health insurance plan. So at this time, I would not be in support of an opt-out plan.
I recommend tabling it for a year also, if that's the plan that
We're
you're
gonna,
proposing.
we're gonna take a vote. We're not gonna table it, because he can bring it back.
That's what I mean.
Same
You
thing, yeah.
Bring it back, yeah. We'll postpone, yes, not table.
So I'm also not in favor of the opt-out program. I think that it has risks. And I think that with the health insurance, the percentage increase so high this year, I think we need to stabilize our premiums before we add something that might actually make them go in the wrong direction. So,
Yeah.
do you have a motion to remove the opt-out plan from
I'll make a motion.
policy? Motion and second. Any further discussion? Is this to get rid of it? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And just one more thing on that is I don't know if, if the town were to consider moving to the GIC, the GIC has an opt-out program, but I don't know if that's only exclusive to state employees. That's just something to look into if we consider the GIC next year as an, for health insurance.
Yeah, and that decision has to be made before January 1st, I think, as well.
Okay,
So
yeah, something we should definitely be proactive on this year.
I agree. All right. The second piece, which this is a new revision from the prior month, on page 2, you will see requested revision of language that more clearly defines our post-65 plan. There's no specific change to our existing policy. It just better highlights the Medicare sign-up requirement. And I actually stole this from Sturbridge. So if there's any questions, Barbara can answer them for
I
us.
should not be critical then, is that what you're telling me?
Exactly.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, where's he at? What?
The bottom of page 2.
The very last
The red-
paragraph
Oh.
that's underlined.
So we'd be
Must
eliminating.
enroll Medicare Part
Yep.
of the retirees and implement the main action. Employee plan after becoming eligible Medicare.
And that's not uncommon, correct?
No, again, it's our policy right now. It better defines. If you look at the middle language, retired under retired employees at age 65, where that scratches strike throughs that entire. That's what we're replacing.
Got it.
So I think I said this at the last meeting, but it shifts the liability, so if you're on an active plan, so as a retiree, if you're on an active plan, 80% of your health insurance costs are gonna be borne by the town, 20% by Social Security, parts A and B. If you are on a supplemental plan with, so if, for people, I'm sorry, forget that. We're paying 100% of the cost if you're a retiree, because you don't have Part B, you don't have Part A. Everyone gets Part A, I think, though, but you don't have Part B. So then, by making this post-65 coverage, it shifts the burden to that 80% is covered by Part B, and only 20% is the cost to the town through the medics or the supplemental program that they have.
Gotcha.
So that's why it makes sense to do this, to shift that cost.
So there won't be any lapse in coverage for those people. It's just gonna shift the burden of the cost from the town to. Got it.
So if they're retired and they turn 60, when they turn 65, they go to this plan. And so we know that we have a pool of people that did not happen to. And so those people will all stay where they are right now. And this will be moving forward, that now it's gonna be mandatory, as before,
It was mandatory, just the language was not ideal.
yeah.
Got it.
Okay, do you want us to vote on that?
Yeah, please.
Okay, do I have a motion to, accept the language for the post-65 coverage?
Make a motion.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? You good, Phil, on that?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay.
All right, and the last piece, I just want to clarify one thing that we found from going back is the town actually did adopt the appropriate MGL section back in June of 1987, which does allow the town to make more than a 50% contribution rate for retirees or active full-time employees should it choose. So this was a discussion point we had on last time, and in the policy that we use, that was never called out as an adopted MGL. So the clerk's office provided me the backup that it was adopted in June of '87. Doesn't change the discussion for us, but it's good to know that we did adopt the correct MGL and we have been following it. So that is added to the policy, so we can vote that as a package though later on. The major change here is, and again, the discussion point is the 50-50 for retirees as of a set date. In the policy right now, it's proposing a July 1st, 2027 date. But again, I shared the feedback from the unions I got on this, and it's open for discussion with you guys to figure out if that's the date you want, if you want to delay it, or remove it entirely. But that is up for the discussion for you guys. And one thing I did provide in backup, which I think you may find helpful if you were to talk about expanding this so it was to cover everyone. I gave you a list of everyone that's on Hampden County retirement boards town side for what their
That's what the list is.
monthly allotment rates are. So there's no names attached to it, but anyone who is on Hampden County Retirement Board who gets a pension from the town of Palmer, and their breakdown of dollar amount they get per month is on this sheet. So we do have 6 individuals who are under $500 a month.
But they wouldn't be.
There's no, I can't assign that they're on a plan or not, but yeah, depending on what model we went with. If you went with the model where, as of this date, everyone is, I shouldn't say that. If you adopt it that says everyone moves to 50-50, these individuals will be impacted. If you say only new going forward, no one on this list obviously would be impacted.
Yeah.
But I know this was a fear of, if talking about it, if we did go 50-50 across the board for everyone regardless, the negative impact it may have on some individuals. And this shows that we do have 6 people who are making under $500 a year, or
Okay.
$500 a month in retirement. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Anyone want to speak on that, or?
I'm okay with moving on July 1st, 2027 with anybody new who retires.
I
And
agree with
keeping
that.
it, anybody who has already retired and who will retire up until July 1st, 2027 on the, current split.
Yeah, I agree. We've been talking about this for several years. It hasn't moved forward. Again, health insurance is getting more and more costly. It's gonna be, it is the budget breaker. And we've gotta do something to try to get some of these costs in control, and I'm fine with the fact that it doesn't affect any of the current retirees. And I think it gives enough time for anyone who's on the cusp of retirement. They have a year to decide if this is gonna make a difference to them for retirement purposes.
Yep.
On that note, that we just need to make sure that this doesn't negatively impact us by a mass exodus of retirees, because then that leaves us in a position where we're looking for people to fill those positions,
Yeah.
right? So that we also don't want to cause that problem either.
Yeah, well, I think that usually if people are that close to retirement where this will be a make or break decision for them, they're going to be on the higher end of the pay scale anyways. So
Right.
that could be a, you know,
That, and I think too, when you factor in when you're going to retire, knowing you're going to switch to a Medex plan, that cost is significantly different compared to what the HMO, PPO you're paying right now.
Right.
So all that it needs to go into your factors of
Right.
retiring.
yep. So,
And again, I also provided a backup of everyone locally, so Belchertown's 50-50, Charlton's 50-50, Palmetto's 50-50, Munson is 50-50. South Hadley's not, they're 55-45. Southbridge is 50-50, Sturbridge is 50-50, Ware is 50-50, Warren is 50-50.
So we're just aligning ourselves to our neighbors is really all we're doing.
For the most part.
Yep.
It's not one size fits all by any means,
Right.
but the large majority of sizable towns comparatively to Palmer are all, they've already made this move.
yep.
Okay, someone wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we move to implement this plan for retirees on July 1st, 2027. And everybody who retires before then or has already retired will stay at the 75-25 split.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. I did have one thing. That was all your changes, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I did have one thing that I didn't catch the first time I read through this, but, under that same retired employees section, the first bullet says the employee must be a current member of the town's group health insurance plan at the time of separation retirement from the town to be able to continue the insurance. And I personally don't think that should be the way it is. I think that, if people have, a lot of people in municipal world retire before 65. They might be on a spouse's insurance, so let's say the municipal employee retires, the spouse is still working, they're able to get their insurance through their spouse. And then their spouse retires, and now the spouse doesn't have insurance either because most private sector, you don't get health insurance forever. And so I think that there should be the ability for that retiree to come on the town health insurance. Also, as Brad just said, we're going to have this post-65 coverage. So they're going to be going into the less costly plan, which is the supplemental insurance. But I didn't realize that this was a thing here. And like I said, I don't think that there's a reason for it. If you force someone to go into the insurance when they retire, then those are years that we're paying for those people when they could have had an option. And I guess similar to what's being recommended as an opt-out program, you're forcing a retiree with this plan to opt into the insurance even though they might have another option. So therefore costing us
You need to read the next section, though. The next,
must be, you have to be retiree, yeah. But this says you have to be,
no, the next piece, right after that, right? Must be a current member of the town's board, town's group health insurance.
Yeah.
The next comment after that is employees must be eligible to receive retirement benefits from a public workers mass municipal state retirement system.
Right.
Right? But it also says any break in coverage during retirement will ineligible the succeeding years. So you're saying now you're giving the option to come back, but that statement there says they can't come back
I
once
know
they're out.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not,
what
I'm
she's
not
saying.
agreeing with this statement.
But that also adds liability to the plan if you're bringing in people that late in the game, no?
It's unknown liability, right? You don't know what you don't know on that.
The-
No.
I-
No, meaning like if you were to put a percentage on how many people take insurance or don't, the risk is that you have people that aren't opting into it right now, then add on. What that number is, I don't think any of us can really guess at that.
Do any other communities allow that?
Yeah, there are a few.
They do. So there are communities out there that will allow somebody to join the system late in, or they've already retired, and they can come back in.
If you, usually, well, I can't speak for every community, but.
Right, but there
if
are
you-
other communities
If you
out
were
there.
eligible for health insurance when you retired, and you are collecting a pension through Camden County here,
Mm-hmm.
or Mass Teachers, you would be eligible to come onto the insurance later if you needed to. So either qualifying event or open enrollment.
I'd be curious in those communities that do allow that, how financially sound their system
It's
is.
very, I can just speak for where I work, there's very few people that come back and do that.
It's just an option. You're saying very few people take advantage of it, but you can.
Kind of like a safety net. Right.
It is, and also what you can't factor into is the individual who, let's say I went without 10 years without insurance. The town actually is saving on that 10 years because
Well,
I'm not
that's
taking it through the town.
That's my point.
So again, it's not like, it's hard to quantify.
Right.
Yeah.
But it doesn't hurt.
But it's more so for, I think Barbara's saying is like, if you have a spouse that has this private, some other health insurance, maybe they're still working, and then something happens to that spouse, and then that, unexpected, they pass away or whatever happens, and you lose that coverage, then that counts as a qualifying event to be able to come back onto the town's insurance after you retire.
Is that something you want to look into in the future or take that on tonight?
I'd like to take it up now.
I mean, while we're looking at the policy.
I mean,
We just have to go back and get new language from legal, right?
I mean,
Or another policy that has the language.
I mean, we could, it's probably,
Take a stab at it today, we can.
no, but if you could bring up what you used, it's probably in there.
We can put it together for the quick meeting that we're gonna have later in the month.
We could, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do
Okay.
that.
Not tonight, is what I meant,
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's fine.
Right.
Well, is everyone agreeable to that before, I mean, just because I have that opinion doesn't mean you all have to agree.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine. with
Okay.
me.
No, sounds legit.
All right, so we'll do it on the 18th. All right, we have a public hearing to get to. Is that what that alarm was for?
No.
Oh, okay. It's very close to the time. Must be like-
Happy
yes,
coincidence.
Yes, it was, Barbara.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, so we are going to skip down to We have a 6:45 public hearing on the fiscal '27 municipal budget. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Motion and second, all in favor?
I
Okay. Is there anyone that would like to ask a question or make a comment on the budget? Sandy?
Again, Sandy Noonan of 18 King Street in Palmer, but I'm here as a member of the Palmer School Committee. We just had a budget hearing, and for the first time since I've been on, we did not pass the budget. Due diligence was done by the school department and the admin team. There were no good cuts. But the part that I think bothered many of us was that they had to cut, because of our deficit, half of the world language department. So I guess my question is, and I don't know if this is gonna come up later percentage-wise, we had a 0.87% increase, and I know, Barbara, you've talked with us, this cannot be a surprise to you. I certainly haven't lost my passion for arguing against this. Did any other department get such a low increase in their budget this year? Can you give us the percentages of the different departments?
I can. All this is available online, but I will note them.
Before he reads that, though, I just want to know, as we discussed, the budget for every department, actually. So our unclassified area of the budget that has health insurance, which is the biggest component, that is carried by, that percentage increase is looked at as being general government, as the town side of the government, where, the school is the biggest employer in the town government. And so, it's not reasonable to just look at, again, my opinion, 1.8 or whatever that percentage increase is, without also looking at, we got a 35% increase in health insurance this year. So that is a major increase. And so I just want to, for any of the public that's watching, most communities do not just, we don't allocate the cost of health insurance and other benefits of employees to the individual departments, and I just think that that's
No,
important.
I certainly
Right,
understand.
that is a dollar amount that's not included in their budget,
In that 1.8.
right, because you use Pathfinders, that their insurance is included with their school budget. So you're talking two different animals here that, and the school is, what, 75% of our budget?
less than that.
50-something, I would say.
It's like 60 when you add everything in, but, okay. So town manager's 1.3, and I'm not gonna read all of them, I'll just read you ones that are in the ballpark of that. Is that fair? Zanny, just so we're,
Sure.
all right. Town manager's 1.3. Assessing is 0. Planning economic development is down 1.2. Facilities general is down 1.5.
But like DPW,
Public Works is
DPW is down 1%.
so they got a,
minus
Right.
one.
Their grand total,
Deficit.
the grand total is they went down by 1%. They got $20,000 less than what they got the prior year.
police department,
Police department is 6.9. That does include, so their grand total increase is 216,000 from the prior year, but that also includes an additional vehicle. So they're getting 2 vehicles instead of 1 for replacement schedule. Council on Aging is 1.6. Veterans agents minus 8.3. Libraries 2.2. Recreations down 42.6%. Those are the only major departments that are.
Okay, so I guess my next, and this just sticks in my craw, and I've been in communication with our state senator, our state rep, Pathfinder. And this is nothing against Pathfinder. Pathfinder got over 6%, plus they just received a $3.5 million grant that we were not eligible to apply for. It was a Voc Tech grant, or a school that has a strong CTE component. And my understanding is that no questions were asked when you met with Pathfinder. I just think the townspeople need to know that, and Barbara, when we spoke to you, you said if you counted the increase of the health insurance, we'd be 5%. Why is it not the same for students of Pathfinder, for Palmer students who go to Pathfinder, and Palmer students who go to the Palmer Public Schools?
I think I just wanted to clarify that Pathfinder's increase is 5%.
That's not what was reported back. It was 6.1%, I think.
I think the number that you may have
I think the number
originally.
came down
Yeah.
from the original number.
The original
The
number,
approval- the approval
it did come down from the
is
original.
5%.
So the approval is $111,314 or 5% even.
Plus, isn't that assessment voted on by all the communities involved, and
Correct.
we're just
majority.
obligated to pay our portion?
Well, if you vote for it,
Well, yeah, but
but
it's
you
a
can
vote.
choose to not vote for it.
But then we're 1 out of 7.
Well-
That if everybody else votes for it, then we're still stuck
And-
paying the
and
bill.
that could happen.
But I go back to net school spending. I've said this a million times.
Two different animals.
Right.
You can't compare the two schools.
Even
Close,
if
not
you,
even.
even if you wanted to, the true number is net school spending. Okay, they don't have FY25 data yet for net school spending numbers. Pathfinder's net school spending was like 8.6%, just figure 8. Palmer's net school spending was over 15%. Again, going back to fiscal year 24.
Again, you talk about a different animal.
Mm-hmm.
There's a real big difference in services.
Don't disagree, but that's factored.
ESL, sped services. So again, if you're gonna talk about,
All of
that's
that-
not a fair
Let's go down the
comparison.
road
It
with sped
absolutely is.
services. Maybe, instead of everybody coming after the council, everybody needs to go after the state. Look at all the money they spend everywhere frivolously and not give it to the schools.
Well, I made my
That's
I made
where
my
we need
pitch
to be
the state.
arguing, not with each other. Pathfinder provides a totally different education, and you have your whatever the state mandates every school has to do. They mandate all this stuff, but yet they don't fund it, but they spend money frivolously on everything else, and they leave us arguing with each other, where if everybody got together and went after the state, you wouldn't be in this boat. And I'll bring up Pathfinder never used money from COVID to fund the financing of employees and this and that, and Palmer did.
Even taking all that out of the equation, Sandy, I understand your point on that. The net school spending number, though, is apples to apples. It takes into account all of that, no matter what's vocational or regular education. And that's where I have the numbers right here. Pathfinder was 8.6% above net school spending. Palmer was 15.1. Munson, 7.4% above. Ware, 3% above.
So another point is, since fiscal year '24, 16 positions have been eliminated. So in the past 4 cycles, budget cycles, and that's been taken care of by attrition. But when you're cutting half a department, and we're trying to get kids to stay and to get as much as they can possibly get, then this is why I opposed it. Because I think when you're making those kind of academic department cuts, there's a problem. And there's a lot of cuts. None of the cuts were good.
I just want to make it perfectly clear, though, that the council has nothing to do with your budget, and your budget cuts are coming from the school department itself. You chose to cut those things because you needed to cut in areas to
But
save.
you told us what our deficit was, and it was almost $600,000.
Well, all we did was approve the money for your spending. You, as the school department, put together the budget to run the schools. The town has nothing to do with
I
running the budget.
understand that.
Right,
But $600,000, obviously, it's gonna mean
And
personnel.
the town has asked multiple times for a copy of your budget, and we never received one.
So I do want to just say, so Bonnie and I did speak for quite a while one night, and we had gotten the one-page budget cuts that the superintendent provided to Brad.
So you did get budget cuts.
And they were very unclear, and my conversation with Bonnie was twofold. One was that I couldn't tell for positions that were being cut, well, there were some on there, it didn't indicate what positions, it didn't indicate if they were being eliminated as that they were gonna be layoffs, or if they were through attrition with retirements, or we never got that information back. I also, in the conversation with Bonnie, indicated and asked whether you guys wanted to come to our meeting. I asked on more than one occasion, to a budget subcommittee meeting. My last conversation was she was gonna check with the superintendent and the school committee, and I never saw a public hearing. Your public hearing was tonight, which is a little late in the game, in my opinion, as we are literally now having our public hearing for the whole budget, and we have to have a budget by June 30th. So, I had specifically, and I'm sure I have it in here.
The letter from the
The letter from the superintendent. And Bonnie, I mean, you're aware that I said, it was very unclear to me what those cuts were. I asked for additional information. We never got it. I never heard back if you guys wanted to come to our budget subcommittee.
Never aware of it, because I would have been here.
I reached out to the chair. I feel that I did my due diligence, which I reached out to the chair. She told me that she was gonna talk to the superintendent, bring it forward. At that point in time, she was unaware of when the public hearing was. So there's only so much that I can do. I mean, I have a full-time job, I have a very busy life, and I'm trying to fill in, have all these budget hearings on the town side. And like I said, I sat down for several hours with you and Bonnie. I thought it was a very productive meeting. But, we both asked for information back. I never got it. And, we just kept having our meetings. And, Brad had conversations with the superintendent. I don't really know what else I can do, but I think it is unfortunate that, the cuts were not relayed to us as to what they really were until right now. And again, not through lack of trying on my part.
Would that have made a difference?
I have no idea because I still don't know what all the cuts are. I mean, I just wrote down half of world language department was cut. That's all I know. That's
So-
what you said.
The letter that we got from the superintendent shared that there would be 2 Unit A teachers, 2 Unit B paraprofessionals, a cut to professional development, a cut to Appendix C, which is stipend positions, and then some other cuts. But that is not, we don't know what
And that's
all of
what
that
I had
is.
said.
That's pretty
I had
specific.
No, it isn't. Not to us. Maybe it is to you because you look at this stuff all
2
the time.
teachers cut, 2 paras
And
cut.
I asked specifically, and Bonnie, I know, you're shaking, I know you remember this conversation. I literally said, are those retirements? She didn't know. She said she would get back to me. No one got back to me. I asked for the. Okay, I'm not Brad. So, as far as the stipend positions, it referenced Appendix A, I think you just said?
C.
Or C, okay, and I said, Bonnie, this means nothing to me because I don't have the appendix, so I don't know what's in the appendix. So, I mean, I know, I had multiple questions on that, asking for more information.
One of
And,
the teacher positions is clearly this world language teacher.
okay, but I don't.
Right, but I'm saying, you're wondering if it's retirement. We had 2 retirements.
Okay, but I'm just saying.
But this
when we
was a
got-
position that had to be cut,
I'm just saying though.
which
when-
affects students.
And I wouldn't, so it's a world language teacher?
Spanish, yes,
Okay.
it's the only world language we offer.
And then I think that the letter itself contradicts itself a little bit because it says in the letter, in the paragraph above it, it says that in FY27, the Palmer Public Schools
Yep.
plans to
I had
expand.
issue with that as well.
So I feel like that right there conflicts.
Well, we didn't cut the whole department is what it means.
Okay.
Well, you can't cut the whole department.
No, you can't.
There are requirements.
Right.
Understood.
You know, like Matt said,
But again, hold on, when I reach out for clarification on a document that was given to me, or given to us, the subcommittee, which was Matt, Jess, and myself, we didn't get clarification. I asked if you guys wanted to come to a budget subcommittee to discuss the budget. No one got back to me to say yes. There's only so much we can do. So, I mean, there's frustration on both parts. You know, it's terrible that the town got a 35% health insurance increase. I think we wouldn't even be sitting here having most of these conversations right now if that wasn't the fact. If we had gotten a normal increase like, you know,
10%.
other people, other communities. But, I mean, it's the hand we're dealt. And, I mean, from our votes tonight, you can see that we're trying. We're trying not to affect current retirees. We're trying not to hurt current employees. We're trying to do things that have the least impact. I mean, they're tough decisions that we have to make, but, you know, I mean, we went through that budget. We spent hours and hours, meeting after meeting, looking through, cutting things, you know, moving things around, seeing if some employees could take on responsibilities that we're contracting out now to save money. Like, we spent a lot of time, and I'm sure you guys did the same thing, but, you know, when there's no money, there's no money, and that's the unfortunate thing. And, you know, I mean, the Superintendent Duda did come to a meeting, and he gave a presentation about the budget, and, I mean, I thought it was fair, and, you know, we didn't cut you by 600,000, that was your request, and I get it, it's a cut, it's people, like, budgets go up, I get it, but, you know, Brad could come and say, ask for $1 million more, and we cut $1 million, that's not $1 million cut, it's just, he doesn't get to use it, and he has to figure it out, so, like you said.
We made the same request, the same percent requested, it was the same as last year. Last year it was 0.5 was cut. This year it was 2.73 cut.
Right, but, okay, do you have a solution of where we can get the money? Because this is the problem, right? We pit each other, you know, and I don't want to get back, and again, Bonnie and I had this conversation, I think you were there also when I had the conversation of, you know, look we want to open the lines of communication, we want to all understand what's going on, and so, you know, that's why I had recommended that we sit down to open the channels, and so you guys could understand where we were coming from and what the things that the town was dealing with this year. And like I said, I walked away thinking that it was a really good meeting. You know, I think we all sit here, and if we had the money to give, we would give it, but I mean, we don't. And, you know, I applaud you guys for trying to get kids to come back into the school. I think that, you know, the different programs that you're putting out, and, you know, why come to Palmer and all the different things, like, absolutely good things. I mean, over $1 million, as I told you and Bonnie, we get for sending school choice tuition, $1 million hit to the budget. So that's huge. And
This
that is-
doesn't help. Cuts like this don't help keep kids who
I
might
mean-
be interested in pursuing a world language.
I understand that, but as Matt said, those decisions are on the school committee as what things get cut. So, you know, I mean, we have
It gets
to.
to a point where, when you have to cut that much, it's gonna be a position.
I also
wanna-
think-
Can I add something real quick in here?
I think we might be adding the same thing, but go ahead.
I get it. There's no good cut across the board for anyone. But when you look around what's happening locally with other school and town budgets, it's only raining here. It's not even pouring.
But I think we should get credit for that we've managed to live within and not make some of the cuts that other districts are faced with.
Right, but if we kept giving you the number that you requested, where would we be today?
We'd be pouring.
It'd be pouring.
We'd be asking for an override like every community around us.
Right, which
Right.
we knew wasn't gonna happen, but
Right.
Yeah,
So
don't even be that silly.
thank you for the opportunity
Which I
to
think
speak.
Brad is teeing up
can I say
the comments
something,
that I
please?
want to,
Just as
Yeah,
talking.
when she's done.
Brad kind of tees up the comments that I wanted to make is that we have been working with the police department on exploring regionalizing dispatch. And, you know, I think there's a there's a question on the ballot tomorrow about consolidating fire departments. I mean, we are not trying to point fingers just at the school to explore regionalization. We are looking at other opportunities for shared services. And I think that there is a trend across the state where Prop 2.5 and versus inflation and health insurance and retirement and all of these fixed costs that we have no control over, or not a lot of control over, and our revenues are not growing at the same rate that we need our desires to provide services for. So I think that one way the school can provide better opportunities for students is considering regionalization. And I think there are so many exceptional regional schools, and it doesn't have to be the elementary school, right? I think the elementary school is a very healthy school, but I think at the high school level, there needs to be serious consideration. And we, just like fire department related stuff, we can sit here and we can say our opinions on it, but it really comes down to the school committee having that same interest in exploring regionalization. And I know we're all, proud Palmer High School graduates or have had kids that are Palmer High School graduates, and we love our schools, but when it comes to thinking about the future of the kids in this community and in communities nearby, is it worth at least exploring the opportunity to provide them better programming in a regional high school? So that is my piece on regionalization. I think there's a number of exceptional regional high schools across the state that can provide great programming for students. And then also to, the earlier comments that Matt said, we're one of 7 in Pathfinder. Well, then if you're in a regional high school, even at the local level, or just a regular regional high school, you can also go to other towns and, it's more competitive, right, to get buy-in from the majority of towns versus coming to one council and having us, be the stopping point. If you can get a budget passed at town meetings for the majority of your schools, you're going to get the budget that you're asking for. So I think that the same argument that applies for Pathfinder that Matt had mentioned earlier could apply here as well if we were a part of a regional district. And I know it's a very hard conversation to have, but I think it's really necessary for a community like
And they
Palmer.
have their own share of problems, of course.
Oh,
regional schools.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, no,
it's
there's,
not a
and,
panacea for,
right, no, but I mean, another big expenditure that is covered, is transportation as well. So I think there's pros and cons to all of the options across the board, whether it's regional dispatch. We have that conversation in our budget subcommittee meetings with the police chief, pretty in depth about that, and more information to come. But we don't want to seem like we're pulling just at the school, but we're looking at these for many opportunities. We just regionalized veteran services. We have public health regional coalition. Animal control is regionalized. So, I'm a big proponent of regionalization and exploring all the opportunities available to us.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, I have something too. I'm sorry, Mrs. Noonan.
I'll stand here.
We're all going around the thing. The refusal of the governor not to give an audit of where all our tax dollars is going. She's hiding it. So think about that when voting comes up. And she's saving the money for other things, and the taxpayers are paying for it. Months ago, I knew this argument was going to happen after I heard that, because that's what it is. And we know where the money's going.
My quick question,
I'm not either.
I would prefer
how
not
much
to get into
extra did the
politics.
state contribute this year to the schools than last year?
I have to look.
The number's still not technically finalized yet, but
Oh, it isn't, it's chapter 70 funds.
Yeah.
And actually, we kind of benefited from that, so.
So let's just talk about that real quick. This is the last year of the hold harmless, the formula for chapter 70. So we don't even know where that's gonna go next year, but this is the last year. And Palmer School, not just Palmer Schools, but we have been held harmless, even though we have declining enrollment, so that could create a whole nother set of
We got hit
problems.
on Title I funds
Yeah,
too.
no, well,
I mean, everyone did.
well, that's, yeah,
So
so,
that's a double whammy.
but I think that, you know, I mean, there's 4 school committee members here tonight, I think.
Yeah.
Just 4, okay, I don't wanna, yeah. I would say this, and we talked about this during budget subcommittee, and we have to start having conversations, and I hate to say it, but it's gonna be like, vote a budget, and then start talking about what we're gonna do for next year, because time travels fast, and we do all need to come to the table, and we all need to have these conversations. And, you know, Brad has been a big proponent of regionalization for the schools. He's had conversations with the superintendent. You know, I've shared that information with some of you. And if the school committee is gonna be, if your vote is gonna be no, I think we need to know that so that we can plan accordingly. If you're willing to have that discussion, we need to start having that discussion now so we can figure things out, because as just said, you know, transportation for regional schools is covered. That's a big part of your budget, is transportation. Any money for schools, there's a lot of money at the state level for regionalization right now. There's money for regional schools. So we have to have those conversations, and we can't wait till we get to the winter of next year and we're starting on budgets again, and then have those conversations. And it doesn't just go for the school, it's gonna be every single town department, it's gonna be the library, it's gonna be all the town departments, it's gonna be the school department, it's gonna be Pathfinder, it's gonna be everybody, because as Brad said, you know, we survived this year, thank goodness. I mean, when you see what's happening in a lot of communities around us, the amount of overrides that aren't passing, an override is not, it's just
not
not,
a
it's
solution.
not an option here. What the option is figuring out how to do things differently, if we can, and if we can't, then being able to communicate that out to the public as to why something isn't able to be done. But when we don't have those conversations, it's not helpful to the public. So hopefully, you know, we can do that, like pretty close to after summer vacation, when school gets back up and running in September, and start having those conversations and come up with a plan. That's where we're gonna have to go. So anyway, I appreciate everything you guys are saying. I know that this is difficult. We all understand that. And I would expect nothing else from you or you guys than to fight for the schools. That's what you're elected to do. I try to look at every single department fairly. It's tough. And so I'm sorry that those are the cuts that are gonna be made. But I don't think, you know, if there was extra money, but, you know, we can't, you know, a lot of towns that are in the situation that they're in is because they've been balancing their budgets with free cash. And they, you know, that's one-time money, and we can't do that, and we're not gonna do, at least I'm not gonna do it. I can't speak for everybody else, but that's why we're surviving. And we're able to do a lot of the capital things that we've been able to do. And I had shared with you the list of the capital items that we've done for the school, and it's a lot of money. And that's great, and we should. But, you know, if we started spending money foolishly on, you know, it's like using your savings account for your everyday living expenses. At some point, you can't pay those bills. And so, you know, again, we're in good shape that way, but we all do have to come together and figure something out. Because next year, if you thought this year was tough, next year's probably gonna be worse, unfortunately. Especially if the cost of living and everything else continues to increase and not decrease, so, but thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
And the last note on that is we are proactively trying to get ahead of this. There's just no way
Right.
at the moment that we have found a plan to proactively get ahead of another 30% increase next year. There's just no way. We don't even know what we're gonna do next year.
I hope that doesn't happen.
Right. We hope it doesn't happen.
Okay, anybody else? I also appreciate all of you coming, I really do. Okay. All right, so, do you have a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna go to, back to item A, ordinance review committee recommendations.
Is Dave here? haven't seen Dave.
I've only talked to him on the phone, so.
No. Do we want to hold then? Do we want to kick this off to
Yeah.
to see if he can make it? Just because I know he wanted to present to
Yeah,
the
of
council.
course.
So
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Next, we have Resolution 2026-28, which is to approve revisions to the senior work-off program. Rachel?
So, my name is Rachel, I am
If
the
it's easier,
assessor.
if you want to sit, you can also can sit.
I'm good to skip.
Okay, okay, just checking.
So I have two proposals for tonight. First, I, got together with a working group of 5 people. So it's my staff, HR, and, a member of the Council on Aging. And we went through the, previous version of the guidelines for the senior work-off program. Made a lot of changes. On my request, there was a background that I had highlighted at the bottom. I forgot to mention one major change that we had also done, which was on income guidelines. We brought those up significantly. We considered similar income towns and looked at what they were requiring, because it's really, they're different than our normal like exemption programs. So our recommendation on that was, the original amount for a single person was 32,000 for maximum income. We've raised, suggesting a raise to 51,777, and 41,000 was for married, so we've got that up to 67,709. And again, that was, you're looking at similar communities in terms of average income. The other changes to the program, we're looking to increase the payout for the seniors. But in order to do this and to get my second request in, which is to introduce a veteran program, we've dropped the program from 20 slots down to 15 slots. We currently have about 8 to 9 on average seniors that work. So we won't be cutting any existing. I'll still leave a few slots open. But it allows us to then introduce 5 slots for the seniors. And we're raising the seniors from $750 a year to $1,000. And then we have the recommendation to match that with the veterans program. So I guess are there any questions on that program?
So would it be 15 total between the two programs?
Yep. And we did write the language on this because we don't know. We've spoke to several communities, and the veteran program either takes off like a rocket or they get nobody.
Yeah.
And because we're raising the income guidelines, we may get a lot more seniors that are interested.
Well, that was my thought.
So we did the language in the guidelines so that the slots could be interchangeable so long as there is no person waiting in the wings for like a job to open up or something like that. So it would be, if a veteran had wanted a slot and all the slots were full, but we had a senior slot, the Council on Aging director would have to approve them taking that slot. And it's, year to year, you apply every year, so, we also incorporated the application into the guidelines, which was not the way it was before, so it's now a part of the guidelines.
I guess you kind of answered that. Why weren't they filling all the spots?
Well, we definitely need to work on advertising and pushing this and letting people know that it's available. Also, too, getting people, the volunteers working in the community. The schools used to utilize them, the library used to utilize them. We have none in any of those departments. They can be valuable assets for DPW. In our building, I've always had a senior in my office, everywhere I've worked. This is the first place I was like, what do you mean we have no seniors in this building? I love
Because
working
the
with my
assessor's
seniors.
office always knows it's an opportunity. But I mean, when Barbara and Matt and we were at the schools, we got a tour of Olmo Pond a couple of months ago, and the principal didn't know
She didn't
that
even know about
that
this
the program
program.
existed. So it was just like, I mean, that's a huge. The library in the school is a huge opportunity
Those
for
are totally, and that's typically where you used to see them.
exactly,
In
yeah.
schools and libraries.
Right.
So I did do a survey of all the departments. Most of the departments would have some potential interest.
Yeah.
And that was including going to the schools and so forth. They cannot work for regional. So they can't work for the water districts, they can't
Yeah.
work for Pathfinder.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so if we kept it at 750, would we be able to maintain the 20 slots?
I haven't done the calculations, and I really kind of thought we could revisit this, but they've been, I know the seniors have been asking for an increase, and we're really like one of the lowest.
Yeah.
Or I should say we are the
You
lowest.
said out of
A lot
20,
of
you've
towns
only
are
been
even
filling
higher
7.
than the 1,000.
No, it was 15. But so what? But the thing is that we're changing income levels, so
Right.
that's going to open up a lot more folks who could be eligible for the program, and then also doing better advertising. So I almost wonder, like, if we were to keep the number of slots with those two adjustments and see how, because, you know, I think I would want to see as many people take advantage of the program and get as much help into the community as possible.
I mean, we could look at maybe a slight increase to like 825 and play with it. I know they've been asking, the seniors that are currently working have been asking since I started here
Yeah.
for an increase. We do currently have the seniors that work, I believe there's 8 or 9, I forget, because one of them works in the town clerk's office.
Yeah.
Almost all of them work far and above and beyond the hours for this program, so they volunteer their time, their
Yeah.
personal time, in addition to the program. So, but it's up to you guys. I mean, I plan to revisit this frequently in the next several years because I'm anticipating we're gonna want to make changes. I do have ample funding. This is all funded through my overlay, so that's something I will not need to raise any additional funds for.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matt.
Why do they pay federal
Done.
taxes on this?
Because it's a
The
law.
federal government just doesn't recognize the state
Oh
program.
my God.
Yeah.
That, and if I could keep continuing, the hourly rate I would have at $20 an hour. And these people are, you've already paid their dues, and then the government's gonna take money. I don't know, a lot of this, you talk about burning my crowd, you're gonna pay taxes on something, so you don't have to pay more taxes. It's just ludicrous. I don't know.
So I'm just curious on how you're going to handle it if we do get an influx over 15. Like, say I qualify this year, that doesn't guarantee me next year. Are you going to go to
Does
a
not.
lottery system after that?
You have that written in here, that
Okay,
it will
I did
go to a
peruse
lottery.
through, yeah.
Yep, so we'll do a lottery system. You also have to qualify for the position you're gonna take. It'll be like what the senior center, there's a licensed nurse who actually does wellness calls. I'm not gonna fill that with just any person off the street.
Correct, right.
So there's qualifying factors that are involved.
No, I was just curious, yeah. Yeah, because if this does blow up and we only have 15 slots,
Exactly.
just because I'm here today doesn't mean that next year I'll be able to get back in because there's more
Right.
demand for the spots.
Yeah.
Might not make it.
Right, it might not be, right.
Yeah, so, Town of Hamden, they have 20 slots. They far exceed the applicants who want slots, so they do a lottery every year. So, yeah.
Got it.
But I think we just haven't gotten the word out, so I think now this is kind of gonna hopefully do a revamp to the system and get the word out, and it's a little more enticing. We also do have, there was no clear language about proxies. I spoke with the veterans agent. He coming from Ludlow, and they allow any family member to be a proxy. We have it written here that it's, you have to be a co-owner. That's something I said we could probably revisit. HR was concerned about like payroll and who gets
Yeah,
the
so
W-2s and.
There's definitely an issue when you do that.
Right, so that's why we wrote it that way, but he did say in Ludlow that they do it, so that's something we could look at down the road if we find that there's people, who wanna have their grandson come and do, some harder labor and painting and stuff. That wouldn't be allowed under this current program unless they are a part owner,
Right.
so.
Yeah, so, I think that I had a couple, I think it's great that you're advocating for this, I do. So I have a little bit of a concern about lowering the number of participants from what we used to have. And I understand why, but I also, I also don't necessarily think that the regulations and guidelines, unless there's really a reason, like, so if we're literally like town meeting, right? That wouldn't go to town meeting, so that would be, you know, we're not a select board, we have the town manager, so I do kind of think that the regulations and the guidelines should be something that doesn't have to come to a council meeting to be updated.
Yep.
And I noticed, on one of them, not both resolutions, but on one, you're asking us to also, vote the guidelines. Then I also,
HR, right?
no.
More like an HR town count.
It would be,
Be
it should be,
town manager.
it should be the
manager.
town manager.
I think for the second one, you guys would have to vote.
So then the other thing is the income limits. I personally think that if we could tie them to one of the exemptions, then that way they could be adjusted every year based on
Yeah, we can do that.
I think that makes more sense, and then we stay competitive. I don't know, I mean, so you're bringing it up a lot, so I don't know what that means for people that will come forward. But I also don't have the exemption, numbers in my head. So I think that maybe we could look at that and look at that as being the criteria that we use going forward from year to year when we're looking to up it. Also, if I was doing, the guidelines, I wouldn't put specifically in the $15 an hour. I would just say minimum wage, and then that way you don't have to keep updating it.
That was something
Yeah.
I thought about too,
Yeah.
that we could.
That was one of the things that kind of jumped out at me. And then I don't know what 66.67, I don't know how many minutes you get to .67.
I asked our HR person, I'm like, should we just round this
I
all
would
out?
round
And then
it in
she's like,
like-
no, we have to leave it that way. I'm like, okay.
Okay, well, so, I don't know what .67 of an hour
Thought the
is.
That's their
same
lunch
thing. I was
breaks.
like, well, do they work a little under or a little over?
That's their lunch breaks.
And then the only thing that I would say to you is, if you do let other people work for the person who qualifies for the program, it's not the person that qualifies for the program that gets the W-2, it's the person that works.
Works, correct.
And so that would have to be, if you were gonna put something in the guidelines, I think that should be like spelled out, so there's no surprises come end of the year when, and I don't know how you guys do it here, we make them come and fill out paperwork at the beginning part, like when they get hired to go
That's what we
into
do
it,
here.
okay.
Yep.
So that there's no question, but the person who's working for somebody else, that they're the ones that are gonna get the W-2.
Right.
So, those were kind of the things that jumped out at me. And then I was gonna ask you, but you already brought it up regarding kind of advertising for the program, because that was, at the schools, it came up about, trying to find volunteers for the library, and I had said, oh, we have this work-off program, and, you know, so if the schools didn't know, and again, we have a lot of new people change, and it's like,
Yeah.
there's, you know, there's just a breakdown.
After we get these finalized,
Yeah.
we're gonna have an employee guideline separate from this for
Okay.
like who does what needs to happen every single year, because every single year we need to reach out to all the departments and say, what do you have for work?
Okay.
We need a list, we need to know what we're hiring these people for basically, because it's really like hiring for a job even though they're volunteer.
So, I mean, could you take what we're saying and kind of tweak this a
Absolutely.
little bit?
Yep.
Still, you can still open the program, on July 1st, but just at the current rates it's at this
Brad can
point.
approve the final changes.
And then, well, so, I mean, I do think, the whole thing with the overlay is like, you have enough money now, but we also, as things are getting tighter,
Well, and that's
we
why
wanna
I
make sure
kept
that it's
Staying
sustainable
all the
too.
same. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I knew.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, we have very few we have the veterans program, we have very few that
You have very
apply.
few veterans
That
in general,
apply.
right?
Well,
Like that would qualify?
well, I don't know, I have no idea,
So
but,
like Belchertown, they adopted a couple of years ago. They've had none apply. I don't have it. So Ludlow and Hamden are the two that I've heard that actually have success with it so far.
Yeah. Okay, so, and then the other one is the, for the veterans, which you kind of also went over. And I don't know, I mean, we could accept that section of MGL tonight, so she can at least implement the program,
Yeah.
and then we would just do it under the same guidelines you have now for the senior work off until that gets updated.
And there's no income for the senior, for the veteran program, that all you have to be as a veteran.
There is no income? Okay. Is that in the MGL?
And the, maximum currently is 1,500. I believe it's 25 for seniors, 1,500 for veterans that we can pay out. There is a bill in the state legislature right now, or it's at one level, I'm not sure exactly, it's passed some levels of the state, but it hasn't fully passed, to increase to the veteran program to match the senior program.
Well, it shall not exceed 1,500. It doesn't say it has to be 1,500.
Correct,
Yeah.
that's the maximum
Right.
that we can pay out, but we can pay seniors more. So they're looking to even that out.
Gotcha. Now, wouldn't we want to put some type of,
Income.
income requirements in? Because if we're trying to reach out to people that need the money, we wouldn't want to have someone that, in a lottery program that,
We can add anything we want as a
Right.
community, so I haven't seen it in any of the communities for the veterans programs. None of them have had income.
okay. I like to look into that a little bit more, because I just don't want,
Yeah.
I mean, I just feel
wouldn't-
like this program, the whole purpose of it is to help people that are struggling on their taxes and give them an option,
Right.
not to just, you know,
Yeah.
that's just my feeling.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So how about if you come back to our July meeting?
Yep. we can do
And,
that.
we can look at this again
Okay.
and just kind of put in place the things we talked about. Did anybody else have any comments on these?
I mean, I'm gonna be nice.
What's that?
So I'm gonna be nice. I don't know.
Okay, so are we just giving her
Should not be bad.
authorization to for the veterans program?
Yeah, I mean, I think we can,
We can adopt it and then
We can
just
adopt
hold
it.
off on adopting the guidelines
Yeah.
till
Okay.
we finalize. I'll crunch numbers to see what we can do for counts and all that.
so, well, right now though, so this is the 1,000, but that's under the hope that we increase the other one to 1,000, so I don't know that
Right.
we wanna just put one at more than. So can we just put both at 500 right now until you come back? So at least you can open it
Is it
on-
750?
Well, 750 is
Oh,
what
it's
they,
750
yes,
now?
yeah,
Oh, it's
so.
Yeah, but
750?
if we want to put income eligibility on it, I would prefer just to wait.
Wait,
Just
okay.
let's do it
Adopt it
all
all
at
at
once.
once.
Yeah,
Okay,
why?
that's
Because if
fine.
we're not going to
Okay.
open it up, why not
Okay.
just sit on
We
it?
don't start accepting applications till like November, so we have time.
Oh, you don't do it in July? Oh, okay,
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
we have
even
plenty of
better.
time.
okay.
Right.
All right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I thought it was July, because it says effective July 1st.
That was the goal, but it's going to
Okay.
be the other one. I think.
That's fine. I was trying to, okay. Okay, next we have resolution 2026-30, which is to approve $7,537.26 from the code enforcement for building department computer upgrade.
Yep, so this is a request to replace the 3 devices that are in the building inspector's department. As you guys know, he has code enforcement money that needs, it's required that the council authorize spending from that. This is a need that fits, should say it's an item that fits what can be spent, money can be spent on. Normally, I wouldn't usually advise this, however, based on where we are with our computer replacement schedule, Having additional funding from an alternative source makes a lot of sense because we are very far behind on our capital needs for technology, and this will help offset that initial startup. This isn't like we're getting this just for the building department as well. There are gonna be other departments that we're taking care of this fiscal year, but we really need a full-out capital plan and replacement schedule that'll be part of the capital plan long-term.
The 3 computers that we're replacing, are they newer computers so
they're
we can
all-
put them somewhere else?
They're all
Alright.
end of life. We
Yeah,
have
that's fine. I was just hoping that we
Yeah.
could use them somewhere else.
possibly, but they're all outdated. They're all over 5 years of the end of life on them.
And now I understand, I know a little bit about computers. I understand that the building department needs $1,700 computers, right? Because that's what they're pricing out as. They're very high end, what we're buying them. Not everybody needs that.
Correct. This
Okay,
isn't
good.
yeah.
So I was gonna say, we're not going for
We're
$1,700.
assessing department by
computers for
department
everybody.
as we go forward on this because, again, this is like everything else, right? We're now pushing to get more digital.
Right.
And
And
with
I
that-
understand their need for prints and things like that and code enforcement.
Right.
I understand
The
that
maps.
100%.
Yeah.
I got it. But that going across the board, not
No,
everybody.
they're all going to be assessed individually.
$1,700 computers. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect.
So you're replacing 3 computers for $7,000 is what you're saying?
Yes.
7,500.
Plus a one-time
You're
fee.
just saying they weren't $1,700.
Well, you-
So they're
I
more
just-
than $1,700.
The device
There's a
itself.
one-time $1,800 fee for setup.
Correct.
I'm looking at the quote.
For setup.
There's a quote in the
Yeah,
backup.
there's a quote in the package, but they
Yeah,
didn't
I'm
put a
looking
price
at
in. I just Googled that computer and I know how much it costs.
It was $1,800 to have somebody come and plug it in.
Yes.
Yes,
serious?
and we shopped this out. We went out to bid for IT consultants, and they were the lowest one. Now, part of the package going forward on July 1st is that in the agreement they will cover 25% of our, is it 20 or 25? Remember, it's either 20 or 25% of our overall devices for the town and PD, police department.
What are you saying?
You mean we'll get a 25% discount on new machine?
We'll get, no, they'll replace on a given fiscal year 20 or 25% of our devices as a whole. This is outside of that fiscal year. We need to move on these, just like the other few. But going forward, part of the renewal process was they built, again, 20 or 25% of our overall device total into their annual assessment.
So we won't get that fee every time we
Correct.
need.
Got it. I was gonna say, we already pay them enough money for support. Why are we paying for one?
that's what we
So you're saying
negotiated with the new
$1,800
contract.
would cover another dozen replacements.
No.
So,
The 1,800 right now covers these 3 computers for install and deployment. Going forward in future fiscal years, so once July 1st hits, the annual agreement we have with our IT vendor is that 20 or 25% of our total computer device total will be replaced by them as part of the annual assessment. So you're not going to get a side-on tacked on for 1,800.
With every quote that we submit.
Exactly. It's literally just getting us off the ground and running.
Are we getting a credit for the 3? You say they're end of life, but they're computers. I mean, they still work. They
They're-
turn on. You use them every day.
They're 5 years plus years old.
So they're coming taking it,
So
or you're
5
just
years,
disposing
do
them?
they work?
Dispose of them.
Dispose of
Okay,
it.
just curious to know what we're
Not-
doing with them.
so how are they outdated? They're 5 years old. Do they work?
No.
They're super slow. They're beyond slow. They're beyond
than
slow
what I
for what we
got.
do day to day.
And they don't have enough gigabytes left for the graphic card that they need. There's no room
Trust me,
left to open
I
it.
am cheap can be when it comes to computers.
was
And
gonna
we reviewed everything we could on these quotes.
Like
they're
you were saying, I
legit.
thought
For
we
what
had
they
a
do,
program that was replacing it, but
these
you
are
wanna
legit.
use special money that is allocated for this through their
It can be
special fund.
allocated, exactly. Yes. Otherwise, the request would come from free cash. Which you're gonna get a capital request for a larger amount later on. It just is we still are under development to create that long-term plan. But this is the bubble we created. We did a lot of replacements all in one fiscal year back in 2019 that now everything's coming due again. And it's created an anomaly where, as you guys know, I don't want a budget like this. I don't want one year to be 2 million, the next year it's 500. I'd rather a gradual increase because it's easier to budget that way. Right now, our deployment on these is not set up that way. We need to find a way out of that so it does become more of a a nice trajectory where it's not the waves.
So we're being reactive instead of proactive and not having a schedule at the moment.
I don't
And
know.
You're trying to set a schedule.
Correct. I don't know what happened in 2019. Maybe it was that they all been all in that same replacement
Probably.
schedule.
It was
just
a Windows
is not
upgrade.
the best way
I think
to budget.
that's what it was. There was a huge Windows upgrade at that time, and I think we had to put money into it.
And we're battling that right now too.
Right.
That happened again.
Yep.
With the new Windows update, with all the AI integrations, all of the computers that were sort of at the end of the life now can't handle that.
Yeah. And it's not worth paying for that either. That's where we're going to keep sinking $200 into a machine that just to renew the Windows license,
Right. I get it.
or we're going to swap it out.
No, I get it. I totally understand. We need to have a plan, and we need to execute the plan, and
Agree.
that's where you're starting now.
Trying to.
Got it.
So I guess my thing is that I get the language in the general law is pretty general on how we can use the funds, but if we're using $7,500 and they only have 12,000, I mean, I feel like we've drawn down from this account a lot over the past year, and I don't know like what the forecast looks like as far as what revenue is expected to come in, and like how I just think that we need to have an approach as a council, maybe like a policy or something as far as how we're gonna use this fund in the future, because I don't want to also see this account get drawn down to nothing and then built up really high, and then like, kind of similar to your.
What else do they use this fund for?
Well, we've used it for to offset costs of staffing.
Salaries, we used it.
I think we used it for books.
Yeah, we bought
Code
code
books.
books,
So it's just
Our
like
school, and I know
professional
that.
development. Yep.
And
It's
this
like-
gets replenished by the money we take in from fees, right? From code
Fines.
enforcement?
Yes,
Fines?
fines.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yes, I agree with just what
Yeah.
you're saying. In an ideal world, we have one vote, which is part of the budget. We approve that we're going to spend $5,000 on X, Y, and Z line item in the budget, and then that's it for the year.
Right.
Again, we're trying to get there, but normally, like I said, I would not recommend this. But given where we are and the need for these right now, it makes sense to use this money for what's available.
Yeah, because I mean, I would use free cash for it, but
Yeah, I mean, I have the same concerns, and I think that this section of MGL is very, very vague as to, it says enforcement, training, and education of fire prevention officers, building inspectors, and the stipend for a municipal hearings officer. That's what it says.
Just full disclosure, I don't get the stipend.
I understand that.
no.
but
I
I'm just saying though.
I also
like,
think
it's-
that
It's very, so I don't see how we can, so, this is 3 computers. One of those computers is being used by the admin.
That's what I was
not-
gonna say.
That's not code enforcement. That's
But she handles like the ticketing. She'll do a large piece of the code
I don't
enforcement.
think that
But I
this,
don't
I don't
know-
think that this is the intent of this section of MGL, because otherwise you wouldn't need one, because that would then just be a budget. And so I think it's one thing, we paid so that Bill could go to do trainings, to get trained in, as whatever the certification he would get would be. But I can also see like the software they needed last time. I can see that. I don't see this. I think that if you need money for computers, then let's do free cash. If you have other computers that are end of life that need to be taken care of, let's vote that at the meeting on the 18th from free cash before free cash goes away and we don't
Or move
have
the
it.
money to capital stabilization like we've done in the past.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, if we're talking that we need to replace 20 computers, it's pretty easy to come up with a.
Well, that's the thing, is that not everybody needs a $1,700 computer, like Ashley
No,
said. They're
the
gonna,
bulk- the
they're gonna
bulk-
assess the department, see their
Right,
needs,
but the
and then
bulk
go
of the
from there.
departments will not.
Right, exactly, but we need to figure out where they're gonna land then for cost and things like that. I don't think 2 weeks is gonna be enough time for Brad to get all that information together.
I can get some of it for the dire ones we need replaced right away, but there's a bigger request coming to you guys. So
And then the other thing is, I mean, today is the 8th. I don't think that waiting till July 1st to not incur this $1,800 should be
I just
that.
think we may be beyond the scope of the 20 or 25% for replacement schedule.
Well, we would need to know that then.
What have we replaced this year?
No, it's for
No,
July
it starts
1st.
July 1st.
Oh, starting on July 1st. I got it.
Yeah. So I didn't even, when I had read this, I didn't realize that it included the admin's computer as well, and I don't think that the admin's computer qualifies under that MGL. I think it only is for what impacts the inspectors. Like, I can see it, it's pretty vague, it's general for the inspectors. I don't think that the admins, and I mean, there is nobody policing this, so it really is our decision. But I think to stay in compliance with Mass General Law.
Just arguing semantics, I know from their point of view, it's the deadlines that need to be taken place per their code. And if the computer's slow, then that's prohibiting the deadlines.
We're not saying that we're not going to do it. We're just saying the funding source.
Just,
Yeah.
I know that that was the argument presented to me.
I just think that I just think that we need to come up with a plan of like what this can be used for.
Yes.
And because it can't be used for everything. And I think we should know that going in and then going forward. And I already gave you my opinion of what you said regarding figure it out at the beginning of the year, or, you know, not, like, I feel like we just keep coming back like every other month for more money. And I'm not saying it's not justified. I just think there's a better way to do this. So, yeah.
Did NetLogix ever get back to us on inventory?
Yes.
So they know exactly what we have, and we've touched what we should have?
We're working through it.
Okay. No, I'm just curious. Yeah.
So I will make a motion that we transfer $7,537.26 from free cash.
I second that motion.
And that's,
Instead of this account.
Instead of the code enforcement account.
okay, so that should be part of the award, and to transfer from free cash to allocate for the replacement of the
You're
computers.
just going to pay for it. Yeah.
Yep.
Not a free cash.
Okay,
Yep.
I just wanted to
Yeah, of course.
Yep.
have that out there.
Yeah.
For the
Yep, so
minutes.
they still get, their
They get their
computers.
thing.
It's just different form of
Funding,
funding. Thank you.
source of funding.
Okay.
And now they'll be really fast to get their work done. They won't be so slow.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. If you make a new sheet, I'll.
Sign off
Yeah,
later.
I can do it Thursday. Okay, next. Finally, Steph, come on down. This is an update from the library, and this is our library director.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Marr. I'm the director of the Palmer Public Library. Thanks for having me tonight. So I'm just going to run through pretty quickly some things that are going on at the library. And up at the top of the sheet, and I have extras here for anyone in the crowd who might want one, we have our link to our website, a QR code for our Palmer Villages, Palmer Voices page, and our YouTube channel. We are working on some new Palmer Villages, Palmer Voices videos as we speak, so if you check back at that link in a little while, there should be some new stories. And our YouTube channel is doing really well. We have a new series called How Do You Make Your Art? And it features famous children's book authors and illustrators from around the country who show a little bit about their studios, how they make their picture book art, and sort of their process, which is really fascinating. And we have some new STEM videos on there too. So we decided after COVID to make a concerted effort to make sure that we provided online programming for accessibility purposes as well. So we've been very dedicated to that. So we're pretty proud of that. If we scroll down a little bit, the update on the Thomas P. Budnick gift. So in the winter, we painted the community room, the Three Rivers room, and the Thorndike room, which hasn't been painted. I don't remember the last time they had gotten painted. So those are all looking very spiffy and fresh. And then the next up is that we're going to be replacing the roof on the building and on the library. And then we're also in the works to build a state-of-the-art new bookmobile. So if anyone's ever had the chance to see Chickpea's bookmobile, it's a box truck that is if anyone remembers the bookmobile from back in the
no.
day, it's a smaller version of that. It'll be able to hold 3,000 items.
Wait, would it be the original bookmobile or the second bookmobile?
I was gonna say, I think I got the second
I think I got the-
I have the
iteration.
original.
Second bookmobile, I think.
I like the original.
Yeah.
The original, what was her name? Oh, she was such a sweet lady.
Gloria Burns and Fern Christensen.
Oh, even before her.
Yes.
Was
Oh, yeah, there
before
was
them.
someone before them too, but that's Gloria and
That's
Fern.
20
Yeah.
years older than you.
I got to work with them when I
No, you
started the
go through
libraries.
the whole-
Pretty
That was a
exciting.
highlight of summer vacation
Yeah.
when they came up in the neighborhood with the bookmobile.
Got you out of class.
Yeah.
No, this was, they
went right
came
to the
during-
school.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, I remember it over the summer.
Oh, yeah, they
in
would
the
come to
neighborhood, yeah.
Bondsville Grammar. I remember them in the, yeah. So this is a smaller version of that, but we'll have built-in everything. There'll be a desk, there's a wheelchair, accessibility lift. It'll have its own AC. We can check books in and out right there, and we can the plan is to bring the library to Three Rivers, Bondsville, and Thorndike during the summer, and to also bring it to the schools during the school year. So that's pretty exciting. We just bought the chassis of the truck. So we're hoping that it will be done by January of 2027 to be ready for next summer. Our community wellness program is doing unbelievably well. It's 2 years now. We've kind of doubled the amount of people that we help each meeting. We meet every other Thursday. And we help people with all of these items here: housing, benefit applications, Medicare and insurance questions, food insecurity, mental health, domestic violence, recovery, and anything else that people come in through the door and ask about. And so this is just a list of some of the groups that come to community wellness and help us out in those areas. And we're pretty proud to say that we've had 5 local towns take our model and either use it exactly as is or modify it for their own programming. We did go and talk, Sergeant Burns and I went and talked at the Massachusetts Library Association conference last year about this program to help other libraries get this kind of programming off the ground. And then just in April, we went to the National RX Summit. I think I might have been the only librarian at the National RX Summit in Nashville to do a poster presentation about how this program works and how we work with DART and the Palmer Police Department. So we're pretty proud of that.
Great.
We had our 20th birthday party last year for the library. So the library was built in 2005. So we had a big birthday party on May 1st. So little known fact, the library and I have the same birthday. So that was pretty exciting for both of us. And we had food carts. We had lots of cake. The National Honor Society kids came and did a whole bunch of booths and games for everyone. It was really wonderful. And I just highlighted, we had a film festival for our Palmer Villages, Palmer Voices films last year. That's Paper Mouse. He's one of our YouTube series that's it's a local artist and illustrator who shows this whole series of how he makes his videos. And then there's a whole story about a mouse that is in an art contest, and it's very cute. So just some quick stats. Last year we had 1,245 meeting room bookings. We have over 300,000 items in our collection. And we saw a huge uptick in checkouts. So we had over 102,000 checkouts, which is roughly a 7% increase from the previous year. When interest rates go up and cost of living goes up, the library definitely sees a surge in business for sure. We had 315 programs for all ages. We had 6,100 program attendees, and we saw over 60,000 people walk through our doors last year. We provide a ready-to-eat and pantry food items for roughly 20 people a day. That's kind of a rough estimate. We don't monitor it, but from the amount of food that we put out each day and every day that it leaves, that's kind of our rough estimate. And we're very grateful to our partners at the food pantry in Palmer because they help us out a lot with that. And we were a drop-off location for winter coats, clothing, period products, prom dresses to help local community groups meet their goals with their fundraising and their drives. So I'm also excited to report that part of the reason why our checkouts have also increased is because we have a very extensive library of things collection. So you can now come to the library and check out a karaoke machine or an ice cream maker or a metal detector. We pretty much run the gamut. Sewing machines.
Cool.
We have lots of really fun stuff. So if it's something that you just want to use one time, or if it's something that you want to try out and you don't know if you want to invest the money in it, you can come to the library and check it out. The kids are very excited because we have Nintendo Switches and Xboxes and all those types of things too that you can check out. So next up we have our summer reading program, which is always a big draw. On the back of attached to your reports, you have the summer reading movies in the park that's coming up. It's a musical theme, as you can tell. And we have a reading challenge, we have book talks, we have free food, we've got all sorts of fun stuff. It's all free. And then there's just some quick little reminders about library funding, and this is all from the Mass Board of Library Commissioners, which says that for every dollar that you put into the library, you get $5 in return. So, does anybody?
So is the items that were checked out, does that also include like electronic ebooks, audiobooks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I know I've been contributing to that number
Yes,
recently.
thank you. Yes, the 300. Yeah, that's a good distinction, because the 309,000 includes the e-collection and the e-audio collection too. So I think Ashley asked me. I think we said how many did I give you? Like 57,000 books. So the library has about roughly 57,000 books in the collection. So that's just books. So that the 309,000 includes everything, including the library things and the e-collection as well.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we did the post on World Book Day.
Yeah. I think it was close to like 57,000 or something.
54,212 physical books inside the building and a little over 65,000 ebooks in the consortium's online collection.
Yeah. It's just, it doesn't take up any extra space on my device after I'm done reading it.
Yeah,
it just goes away.
It's really nice that it just checks itself back in.
Right. It returns itself if I don't finish it on time.
Yeah, so if you were able to go to our movies in the park last year, we had a really great time. This year we're expecting to have just as much fun. So we have Wicked, Hamilton in honor of the 250th anniversary of our nation, and then obviously K-pop Demon Hunters. That was our most requested movie for the year. So, yeah. Anybody have any questions?
It's wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Steph.
Thanks for having me. Nice to
Thanks
see
for
you.
coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry it was such a busy night.
Oh, that's okay.
Next is Department of Public Works update, Dennis Clark, our director.
Dennis.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dennis Clark. I'm the Public Works Director here in Palmer.
Want me to drive and you talk?
No, I can probably navigate a little bit different here, but I put together a quick agenda for tonight to help me stay on track. So we're going to do a quick background, go over some snow and ice, daily operations of the DPW, some Pathfinder co-op students, some projects in the community, road work and recreation, fleet maintenance, and a recap of our discussions. If you could hold your questions and comments to the end, that would help me get through this. Thank you. So before I arrived as director on January 5th, 2026, the DPW director position had been vacant for some time. Without a transition plan, my onboarding has been an uphill challenge. My first days were not spent getting acclimated to the town, rather straight to long-duration storms and below-average temperatures. Even though 2 of my first 5 months were consumed by snow, I'm proud to say our team has done an amazing job. I look forward to the year ahead and having a positive impact in the community. Snow and ice. Our snow and ice expenses for snow and ice overtime totaled $139,572. Snow and ice contracts, $184,193. Snow and ice repair and maintenance purchase service, $30,973. Snow and ice repair and maintenance supplies, $56,011. And de-icing materials, road salt, $348,469. challenging to see here on this small screen, but I brought in our Excel spreadsheets for our snow and ice operations. On the left, we have all of our snow and ice events beginning in December. Unfortunately, that's not very legible.
Not at all. That's all right.
Well, it shows a lot.
So the spreadsheet begins in December. I don't know why this is so unclear on the screen, but it begins in December and it runs through March. So every event is logged with the times that the snow starts, the times we come in, who comes in, whether it's our own guys plus contractors, whether it's strictly salting or whether it's salting, plowing, and how many times of each. So it captures the approximate amount of tons that are put out during each event. On the right side are the salt purchases. Those go from what looks to be November, and that also runs through March. And the totals for what's purchased pretty near aligns to the total that was used. We used about 4,000 tons of salt, and we purchased around 4,500 tons of salt. The equipment used for each snowstorm varies, but what we have is 26 pieces for the town that goes out each storm and 13 contract pieces. Why are snow and ice expenses so high? We provide a premium 24-hour service for our residents and our businesses. People count on us for safe, passable roads at all hours. Businesses and residents require clear roads at all times, even during storms. Residents rely on us to get to and from work, even in the worst conditions. Route 20, Route 32, Route 181, and Route 90 make Palmer an extremely busy commuter town with heavy truck traffic. Proper road care prevents unnecessary vehicle accidents, lessening the load on emergency services. Ambulances, doctors, nurses, other healthcare professionals, and families on their worst day rely on us to get to Bay State Wing Hospital, even when the weather is terrible. Residents and businesses don't often come before the town to speak about the services we provide. However, I can tell you from the calls directly to the DPW, the work we do is extremely important and people rely on us to keep them safe. We began logging calls for service at the end of January. Over the following month, we received 49 calls for service related to snow. I know there were many calls that did not get logged. We didn't receive any requests to reduce our services. Snow and ice expenses are a direct result of the weather. We don't choose when the roads ice or when the snow falls. Roads are treated and plowed when needed. Some daily operations. Trash pickup. We don't offer commercial or residential trash pickup. DPW empties 50 trash bins around town each week. 30 trash bins are emptied on Sunday mornings throughout the summer. Roadside dumping continues to be a problem. Tires, mattresses, and furniture are reported and picked up regularly. Recycling. Recycling is available for residents on the first Saturday of each month at the DPW at 1015 Bridge Street. We have expanded our hours at the yard waste facility to include every other weekend throughout the summer. Please see the town's website for additional information and operating schedules. Compost is available for free to residents at the DPW, 1015 Bridge Street. Please load your own material. Trees. As beautiful as our trees are, they require regular trimming and often removal. Hazardous trees are reported to the DPW. We will look at the tree, remove the hazard, and report it to the electric company if wires are involved. Following state law, standing trees that need to be removed are referred to our tree warden. The tree warden writes a report on each tree and advises us what action to take. I look forward to refining this process in the future to provide better service for our residents. Parks and playgrounds are maintained daily for public use. Fields. The DPW is responsible for all town fields. Infield conditioning, line painting, fence installations, and of course, endless mowing. We even staff larger night games to ensure any problems are addressed immediately. School grounds. The Palmer DPW is responsible for maintaining the school fields and grounds in the summer and snow removal in the winter. We have 4 cemeteries in Palmer that we take care of: Oak Knoll, Four Corners, Palmer Center, and the Three Rivers Thorndike Cemetery. Roadside mowing. Roadside mowing continues daily throughout all parts of town. We do our best to keep the weeds back and maintain sight lines. Mowing is a slow process. Bamboo grows faster than one mower can handle. Please be patient. Street sweeping. Street sweeping helps with appearance, safety, and reduces the number of contaminants entering our waterways. Our sweeper goes out on most days. Please be patient while it works its way around town, and wave to Russ. Drainage. Road edging and drainage work is ongoing. Here is an example of a drainage improvement. This work solved a long-standing problem of water ponding in the roadway. Line painting. Stop lines, parking lines, crosswalks, railroad crossings, and turning lanes are all painted by the DPW. Painting is done during the day in low traffic areas and overnight on busy roads. Pathfinder Co-op. The Palmer DPW partnered with Pathfinder Tech and 2 co-op students. Both students performed lawn maintenance. The Helping Hands program will provide a financial reimbursement to the town for one of the students. The Willard Fountain and Memorials. In preparation for the sale of Converse Middle School, the Willard Fountain and Memorial plaques were relocated to the entrance of Legion Field. The original cobblestones were repurposed into a walkway leading to the field entrance. Memorial Day. Unfortunately, we did not have a parade. However, a lot of care went into preparing for the parade. Depot Village saw some improvements to the parking area adjacent to Depot Park. In addition, we removed all remaining protective tree irons from the village and lowered the hazardous tree grates. We installed a Palmer plaque in the sidewalk at the top of Bridge Street. We dug out the flower beds, installed mulch, replaced a section of wooden border, and installed a second Palmer plaque in front of the existing parking sign. Paving. Sections of Old Warren Road and Stimson were paved and painted in May. Endelson Park. We had a new controller, wiring, solenoids, and touchpad installed for the Endelson splash pad. The new system is more sustainable and cost-effective. It features programmable times and selectable spray patterns. The new system can be serviced by local electricians without the need for specialty service providers. The splash pad. The splash pad surface was stripped, prepped, and repainted. A new touch controller was added to ensure operation. The Swift River picnic and fishing area, located on the property behind Endelson Park. We cleared the overgrown brush, and we will continue working to improve the area. It's a great location to teach children to fish or to have a picnic. Water Street Canoe Launch. DPW constructed a new canoe launch behind the practice field on Water Street. The site is part of the upcoming Lower Quabog River Blue Trail. Crosswalks. Palmer has many non-ADA accessible crosswalks. Crosswalks may not pass over curbs. They must have ramps at either end. We have been instructed by our insurance provider not to repaint those crosswalks. We are actively planning crosswalk ramp replacements to bring all crosswalks into compliance. Crosswalk improvements. This is an example of a completed crosswalk project at School and Park Street. The work in the intersection included new accessible concrete ramps with pads, 2 rebuilt drainage structures, relocated stop sign, new asphalt, and new road markings. Fleet maintenance. Vehicle and equipment undercoating. The DPW hosted an undercoating training from New Hampshire Oil Undercoatings. The DPW implemented a long-term undercoating plan that will extend the service life of the equipment. This is our 2012 John Deere loader. The loader shown here is currently out for sandblasting and paint. Proper maintenance of the equipment will ensure maximum life. This is our 2001 Volvo loader. This loader received some needed maintenance and repairs, repaired rusted sheet metal fenders and broken door, serviced the fuel system, engine oil, and hydraulic system. The machine was also sandblasted and painted. Our fleet management. We're experimenting with different methods to improve our fleet management, tracking, and reporting. Proper tracking and reporting will ensure maintenance schedules are met and recorded. Records will improve efficiency and ensure vehicles and equipment are being maintained properly. In my short time in Palmer, I have been impressed with the DPW staff and the support I've received from other departments. Going forward, I know we will continue to have a positive impact on the town and the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you,
Nice you're doing
Dennis.
the maintenance on that.
Thank
I
you.
was
Very
just gonna
nice
say,
of that.
thank you.
Long time coming.
I'm a truck driver, and it's been one thing that's bugged the life out of me is the non-maintenance of equipment. Easy stuff, like the sandblasting, the undercoated.
We'll get
I
there.
have a 93 L8000 that looks as pretty as them, you know, so I appreciate that.
We have some great equipment. and we aim to keep it that way.
Good.
I'm all about posting our wins. Did you post anywhere, or did anybody post anywhere that we repainted the park in Bonsville? The splash pad?
Yes.
We did? Okay, I did hear that somebody.
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay, good, because I heard that it was on now for the season, that we were on.
It's like all the rage. We
Oh
couldn't-
yeah, everybody asking.
The water was barely coming out of that thing, and the kids were splashing
Awesome.
around.
No, it
That's
looks
great.
amazing, by the way. Yes, so you guys did a
Thank you.
really
the
good
guys,
job.
The guys worked really hard at that, and really happy to see that up and going.
Now, and I know this presentation was lengthier than other department heads we've had here, but these projects deserve recognition, and I think going forward, we want to, and Dennis and I and Ashley have talked about this, is posting them when they happen, so everyone knows what's going on in the community. It shouldn't wait until the end of the year when we're doing a recap to highlight everything that goes on. So we're going to start pushing these more out once they're completed to show the public that the DPW is active, they're out there doing work, and to highlight all the good work that goes on.
And we're learning that role with how to share that information out there, and I look forward to it.
And now, I know I asked Brad about it, so I kind of know the answer. Moving forward, you guys are able to, you hosted the undercoating thing, you came, but now you guys can do this yourself on a regular basis. Because I was always pushing for at least getting the vehicles fluid filmed or whatever.
It's a similar product, same
Right.
idea, right? Same thing.
They were doing it the other day when I was over there. They had another coat.
Yeah, so we do
another
it.
car under there.
We do it, nearly every day. So
Yep.
we kind of trade out some folks, so no one gets too exhausted with it. It's not a pleasant process.
Yeah.
But everyone's trained on how to do it, and saw some enthusiasm, and everyone takes a little bit of ownership in that.
And it's a little pride when you
Yes,
you know,
there
you
is.
have something that's
Keep it clean.
getting old, but it looks like it's brand new and it'll last forever.
That's right.
And one thing I found out, I went to a conference last week, which we may implement here in Palmer if I get more detail on it. CBDG money, okay? We have access to possibly borrow for like a 5-year window. So I need to really assess that more, but part of the conference I went to, they highlighted you can borrow for that money for 5 years. So if, let's say we want to tackle, find a central location where we tackle all of our ADA compliant sidewalks, as long as it's in a zone that's CDBG eligible, we could borrow, get a better bang for our dollar for a company to go out and highlight everything that we want done. So it could be something that comes up sooner rather than later, where we're looking to replace, not replace, but to really assess all of our sidewalks here in town to make sure they're ADA compliant, because that's one thing that Dennis and I have talked about with our insurance provider, and really they want it to be fully ADA accessible. And there's some, if you walk around town, there's no like ramp. It literally just goes right to the sidewalk. That
We've talked about this numerous times over the years, right? So we did complete streets, right? And that was supposedly, we were going to use some of that money
we still are.
We
right,
are.
to do the assessment, right? Because I think we've asked for assessments of sidewalks for years.
Not the assessment piece, but they are
Sections.
sections. Yeah, I think there's
Sections of
maybe 8 to 10
Kelly.
areas that they're gonna hit.
Got it.
We just have a lot of sidewalks in this town.
We do.
A lot. I like that.
Dennis, one of the things you had talked about when you came before the budget
I'm gonna put
subcommittee
up a toll
was
on mine.
for the areas
Much
where
traffic
we
goes by mine.
should not be repainting the sidewalks. And you had talked about like blacking them out.
Okay.
So are you guys in the
That's good
process
enough.
of doing that too, or?
So the blacking out, unfortunately, I learned
Can't
that
do, or?
we can't do. So the
Okay.
black we can do, right? There's nothing we can't do. We could paint them black. The black wears and the white shows through. We need to fix them. That's what we need to do.
Right.
Fix them as what, repave the road?
Make
Replace
them
the
ADA
ramps.
compliant,
Make it ADI compliant.
Right.
Well, you'd have to
So-
cut the,
Cut the curb.
We have some
Cut
side
the
we have some
granite.
sidewalk repair money, and we have some stuff in the pipeline to get these replaced. We're
Yeah.
just struggling with getting contractors in on a timely fashion, but we have a plan to get some of these replaced, and we have some grant projects in the works to take care of some of them also. So we're going to see a lot of them being replaced in the short term, and I think we can get a bulk of them up to compliance in a relatively short order.
Okay,
So
great.
I'm not opposed to painting them,
Yeah.
but I don't want to pour a bunch of resources into painting them when we can just fix them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think it's important though for people to understand though why some of them are not getting painted, and maybe you guys could, put a post out highlighting the areas that are and then why some of them are and what the plan is.
So on the screen right now, if we look at the picture on the far left,
Yeah.
So this is Thorndike Street and Pine Street. So these are big, big intersections, and the crosswalks are not compliant. So it leaves the paint faded because we are instructed not to paint them.
But this is one, Dennis, I can imagine that this is a high traffic area. These will be one of the first ones we target.
It is.
Exactly.
It is. It happens to be one of the most expensive also.
It
But
looks
it
like
is.
one that's more and easier, it's almost already down to the road. That granite has sunk in, because usually your granite curbing's always put up this high.
It is,
That thing's
yeah.
been sunk for years.
Unfortunately, when I look at them and I say, oh, we'll just, pop it in, and
No, you've gotta cut it and be able to pull out that
Looks
piece
at
of
it.
granite.
yeah, it turns into more of a,
I totally, no.
yeah.
So somewhere on your shelf, you mentioned paving,
Yeah.
and somewhere on the shelf, because I received it almost 10 years ago now, was a report about the schedule, the paving schedule for the roads in town.
Okay.
And I'm sure it's way outdated at this point in time.
It-
I'm just
likely.
curious on, do you have a schedule for this year on where we're going to next?
I do. I have one for this coming year. We've already bid the paving for the year. I haven't finalized those bids yet, but
No,
yeah.
just curious to let
No.
let people know that, these are the roads that we plan on
Yeah,
paving.
I can't put them out yet until we
No,
get
it's
our pricing, but we do have a list that we put out for bid, and it's bid per specific road. And the prices we know are gonna come in higher than when we put the list together.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, so we'll have to pick and choose, but for anyone listening, Baptist Hill Road is on the list.
You're gonna make a lot of people happy there.
I got a quick question. The middle picture there, how that pole is like part of the sidewalk, how do you make it so
So
that
that
it is,
There would be
are you
two,
gonna have to take a corner of that other,
it would be two ramps. It would be two separate ramps.
because obviously the pole was, or the sidewalk was put around the pole.
Right. And it
Do
would
we
be.
go after property to move everything back further?
No, I think it would all fit. There would be a ramp on the left side of the pole and a
the
separate
right.
ramp on the right side
You
of
can
the
see
pole.
on the right where it would,
Yeah.
with the left. Okay. All right, whatever.
There's some mailboxes too that aren't quite in the
Yeah,
picture. It's a
take
tight,
the
it's a
property
tight,
or what?
it's a
To be
tight squeeze.
determined.
Eh?
Okay, anything else for Dennis?
The quick mention,
good.
the gazebo in Three Rivers that the town spent a lot of money, I think last year or the year before, painting again,
Okay.
is being vandalized.
Oh, fantastic.
I know just people writing crazy things all over it. I don't know how to stop that problem. We
Gotta
had the
hang out there at
well,
night.
we had
Hang
the
out there with a
cameras that the
cigar.
town spent a lot of money on. The chamber piggybacked on that. It's a sore subject. We're not going to go there. But yeah, there are no cameras down in that area. I guess in the past we put up trail camera on one of the trees in the park
Okay.
as a chamber. So I don't know if that's something that the town wants to look into. If it gets worse, the chamber may do it. Just put a trail cam up in the tree just so we can keep an eye on things. I know it's a symbol of Three Rivers, and I know that we want to take care of it, and I know that the chamber puts a lot of time and effort in making it very nice for the holidays and things like that. So I just want to make sure that, when we do nice things like that, that we try to prevent it. Obviously we can't, but I mean, it just kind of sucks that
It does.
we have to deal with that, so.
Yeah.
But I don't know if, as a DPW, you can go down, maybe try to clean it. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
but that's just one of the things I've noticed. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis.
You're welcome.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Why don't I stay here? Are we?
Yep.
Yeah, Stone Ice next.
Okay, next item on the agenda is to approve the transfer from free cash for the snow and ice deficit in the amount of $428,221. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Quick discussion.
Yeah, sure.
So that's just the overages from this past
Right.
year, right? We're not talking past years.
No.
We usually come up even every year and we take care of it. We don't
We
push
never
it to
come
the
up,
next.
we
Right,
never come
that's-
up even.
that's the only
We make
budget-
ourselves even.
Well, yeah, we make ourselves even, but we don't push it off year after year after
No.
year. Okay.
No.
Just want to make sure.
It's the only one you
Yeah.
can deficit spend, and then at the end of the year, we take care of it.
Got it.
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, I'm gonna keep going. getting late. Resolution 2026-31, to authorize a transfer of $125,000 from sewer surplus for the engineering and design services for the Shearer Street sewer replacement project. So this is we had at our last meeting, an in-depth discussion about the different options. We, at that point, asked Ty and Bond to give us a proposal for the engineering and design. You have that in your packet, it's $125,000. They're here if we have questions. Does anybody have questions? I feel like we should ask you something, just because you've been sitting here all day.
I do have a quick
Do you
question.
really need it?
A quick question, only.
Okay, but if you're gonna ask a question, they need to come, yeah, I'm gonna come up so they can hear at home, yeah.
It's only regarding to the emergency thing that you had mentioned the last time. Did we ever scope the pipe from, did we have a chance between now and the last time we met to scope that pipe that goes through the AMVET's property that we were worried about failing?
We have scoped the CCTV.
You have? From Main Street?
No, we have a
Okay.
scope of work.
Wait,
Scope
okay,
of
hold
work
on.
belongs
You need to,
word
come-
of scope.
because no one can hear you at
Yeah.
home, thank you.
Developed a proposal that has a outline of the scope.
Got it.
that
So you have
correct?
not CCTV'd the line
have
yet?
not
Okay,
done
got
the
it.
work.
That's what I was curious about. Okay.
And then just to kind of make a little bit of a clarification, the thing we went into in depth about the Three Rivers siphon, this is going back to an adjacent part of the Thorndike Street siphon replacement that we've already been in design with the town.
Oh, this is not
this
what
is
we're.
totally different.
This
Oh,
is
this
Shearer
is
Street.
for
Shearer.
sure.
This is
Shearer.
Shearer Street.
Oh,
We're
see,
at
this is
Shears.
the siphon
Other
project.
side of
on
town.
Stra-
Yeah,
I know. I
there's-
was like, wait, you guys are
there's a
here.
project, so it gets confusing.
Got it.
Okay.
So regarding that, I mean, you guys have the proposal and everything
We
together.
do have the
Got it.
proposal together to do the
Good thing you hung
CCTV.
around that.
I know.
Yeah.
See? There you go, mixing them all up. So this is the engineering design for the sewer siphon project for the corridor.
It's an extension onto that. So what it is we, as part of the original scope of work, we were contracted to CCTV.
In case you didn't read it.
Everything from, is it Lawrence or Longview? I always get the two.
Longview.
Longview down to North Main Street. And because that sewer is now going to accept all the flow coming from the pump station that we're currently designing for Shearer Street. And we found that pipe was in like complete disrepair to the point where while we were out there CCTVing, the town had to go out and actually repair a section of it because it had failed.
So that's at the top of Shearer, at the crest
Correct.
for
Yep.
Longview. Okay. I'm okay with that. I mean, got to get done.
So what's the timeline for this project? Like to do that part?
So we haven't put do we have a timeline in here in the scope? There it is.
I did too.
32 weeks once we get authorization.
32?
32 weeks to have 100% design.
Okay.
That will consist of hiring a surveyor to come out and survey the roadway. We'll do some geotech boring, so we'll have to hire them, have them come out and drill a couple borings along that corridor. And then once we have that information, then we can start working on the design.
Is this the project that's going to be funded by the DIF?
Well,
Potentially. This may
it's
be,
outside, isn't
this
it?
is outside of it. We may not use diff money for this
Okay.
specific one.
But this is that project, yes.
It's expanded beyond, so that's why it's
Yes.
two parts, right? So part A is the Thorndike Street
Oh,
siphon,
okay.
which goes into Shearer Street.
Shearer Street, yep.
This is a secondary part, it's called part B.
Okay.
And this is because they just mentioned that the pipe can't handle the extra. If we upgrade the siphon, it won't be able to handle and it's deteriorated, I'm sure, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we didn't fully do a capacity analysis, but I think that based on the piping that's coming in, even with the expanded system coming from down Thorndike Street, instead of continuing down Thorndike to come to the pump station that we're putting in, the pipe size itself, we'll probably have to run some sort of analysis to make sure it can handle all that extra flow. But yeah, it is in really rough shape, and because of that extra flow going in there, we just feel like it's extended its useful life.
So once it's designed, then would we be immediately going out to bid for like the next construction season, or I guess, what, so now this is, so we have the siphon, but now we have an issue on Shearer. So we're gonna take care of that prior to the siphon work, if we end.
They don't have to go hand in hand. They could be, they're two.
They can be two separate
Okay.
projects, yes.
Okay. And so then what would the cost of that kind of project be? Do you know? Ballpark or?
Probably with the design and also will put the town in a better position to go seek grants. 'Cause we
Okay.
had that discussion earlier.
Yeah, we could have.
It's already invested
Yeah.
in the project, next year's grant cycle, there could be an opportunity to get construction dollars through some of the.
Similar to the one-stop, what we did for
I was
the
gonna say.
for the Thorndike Street itself. We could have, honestly, we had this discussion of whether or not we put a one-stop grant application in for this. We went for the full home run of the 5 million for Thorndike Street. We didn't want to put in competing
Right.
applications.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But next year, this could be another application.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Would we do the application for that and for Thorndike Street again?
If it depends on if we get money for Thorndike Street this year.
This year.
That one is June.
This year?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You
All
should
right.
hear somewhere in the November for time.
Okay. Cool.
Okay, gotcha. Sorry, I didn't go, I thought we were talking the other project that we talked about last time.
I was like, okay,
No, I did, and so I
I'm
didn't.
right along with you,
I
brother.
didn't read into this, I'm sorry. So where do we stand with that one then?
So there's a proposal with the town
Yeah.
for.
The town does have a full proposal
Okay,
Yeah, it's,
for the design work.
there is a proposal with the town to CCTV, what we were calling the north run of the siphon across the Ambets Park.
Right, that was Main Street to the siphon, no, not the siphon, to the junction structure.
right, but we also talked about like, going through the current pipe and, I know I'm
Relining
not
it.
using,
Relining it,
yeah.
yes.
I think the intent was to see what the condition of that pipeline was
At,
first.
in Ambit,
Right,
okay.
And see if that needed to be added. to the
Okay,
first scope.
gotcha. Okay, all right, good, all right.
That's where I was, too.
Around
Well,
10,000 or
yeah.
whatever.
It was around 10,000 for the scope to CCTV that pipe to see what the rest of the
Okay.
condition was.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so, anything else you want to tell us about this that we didn't know? No? Okay.
The
So-
only other question I have is, what are we currently sitting in as sewer surplus? Because I feel like we've been beating that account up pretty hard.
Just under 2.2 million.
Right, so, do you have a motion to approve a transfer of 125,000 from the sewer surplus for the engineering and design services for the Shearer Street sewer replacement project? Motion by Matt, second by Carl, all in favor?
Aye.
It
Opposed?
does say in the proposal the total fee is 125,900. Just wanna.
You want to rescind that vote? It does say 125,900.
Did you
I
want
just
to
want to make sure you're getting your money.
Did you want to chop off 900, Tony?
Yeah, I mean.
125.
Frequent
900.
flyer discount we get, you know.
I still have authority, right, until the other month. Yes, we will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
That way, we can get off the ground and roll.
I know how you guys work.
Technically, I'm retired.
We're
Yay,
You're retired?
congrats!
Wait, what were we
Congratulations,
doing?
Tony.
I'm done
Congratulations.
at the end of the month, but I still have that authority.
Where's the party?
Next town council meeting.
I did not want to retire.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Miss, buddy.
Well, it could be a party. You just don't have to call it a retirement party.
You're
See?
absolutely-
Exactly.
So who will be taking over for you? You?
Yep,
Okay.
so my name's Dan Holmes.
Got some big shoes to fill, brother.
I'll do my best. I've worked with Tony for actually quite a while. I've been at Time Bond for 19 years. Done similar
Nice.
work with him.
Yep.
I've also worked with Matt for many years.
17.
17. So, look forward to working with you. I have done some work in Palmer. I got involved with the Church Street Bridge replacement and currently working with Heidi on some culvert replacement designs over on West Ware Road and Bacon Road. So I'm familiar with the town, but yeah, look forward to continue to help you guys out
Great.
on all your projects.
Thank you.
Okay.
you.
So we have a motion, a second.
For 120, for
For 125.
125,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
And congrats again. See, we did keep your secret. We didn't tell everybody. We knew last time, so.
Oh. Hey, Tony, come here a second.
Oh boy.
No big deal. Hey, it was great working with you. I've known you for,
It was my
I think,
pleasure.
literally like, probably 20-plus years. But yeah,
Wow.
I wish you a happy retirement. Don't be a stranger.
I will not be, I'm still gonna stay in La Crosse.
Okay.
Excellent.
Anybody needs anything.
Enjoy. We have great recreation spaces in Palmer if you're looking for things to do. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Here, guys. Thank you.
Oh, no, come on. I've known him for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next item is municipal aggregation plan update with Titan
Who's
Engineering.
left?
Yeah, right? The last
Who's
man
left? I know who these
standing.
guys are.
Must be you.
I was sitting here and they were like, who wants to sit through this for this line? It's like, you are obliged.
Jealous of your library. A lot going on over there.
Yeah.
So just a little background, if you guys remember, we talked about this, we found the notes. Initially it was presented to the council back in October of '24, so it's been a while since we started this program now, but.
Keep
I
it on
think
your
the-
radar. Every now and then I ask about it.
Yeah, you do, and we're finally at a point where I felt it made sense to bring Titan and Justin in to talk more about the program, because we are coming to the point where we would go out to bid to DPU and get the rates and then move forward on it, so definitely an exciting program, and Justin, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks, Brad. Yeah, and thanks everybody for the time this evening. I'm Justin Kearney. I'm a managing director at Titan Energy. I've been at Titan for a little over 19 years now. We're an energy consultant based out of Hartford, Connecticut. We're really started as an energy broker. So essentially we run bids on behalf of customers, commercial, industrial, municipal clients across the country. We handle a lot of municipalities in Massachusetts. I think we're up to around 50 or so. Actually, that's where we met Brad when he was back over at Plymouth. And we now manage the town accounts for the town of Palmer. And what we're looking to do and looking to talk through is what is called the municipal aggregation program. Is anybody familiar with the municipal aggregation, the concept of community choice aggregation?
No.
Okay,
Not
well,
at all.
I'm going to walk through it a little bit for everybody. I'm sure you've probably seen it, and I think, it'll probably be familiar for people once I go through it.
To put it in perspective really quick, it's not the same people as the ones that knock on the door and say, hey, can we see your electric bill? We
No.
can save you money.
No, it's a lot simpler
That's the
than
solar
that.
people.
Yeah, there's solar people who do that, and there used to be people who, I don't think there's anybody who's door knocking for residential rates anymore, but there used to be. This essentially, I'll just go to the next slide and kind of walk through. What municipal aggregation does is it pulls together all of the residents and small businesses in a particular town that are not under an electricity contract and puts them out to bid together. So instead of an individual residential customer signing up with a retail supplier, you can go online, find a rate, sign a 1, 2, 3 year deal. The idea is that you are pooling together all of the individual eligible ratepayers in a town and having them aggregate their buying power for a better rate. So there's a significant amount of towns, cities, and across Massachusetts that have done this. So I'm just going to kind of walk through kind of how this works, from beginning to end, and kind of where we are in the process, and what kind of comes from this. This is a pretty formal process to do this. Obviously, like what's happening here behind the scenes is the town of Palmer through the Mass DPU and through this formal process essentially is kind of gaining power of attorney over individual residents and small businesses that are not signed up to electricity contracts. So how do these programs work? So the first thing to mention is they're opt-out models. So the way these work is customers are notified of an impending electricity aggregation program, and they are essentially automatically enrolled in the program if you're a resident or small business in this town, if you do not opt out. So basically, Brad, we as we talked about earlier, this is the only people who are eligible under this, the way this works currently, are customers who are not already enrolled with an electricity supplier. So a lot of times you'll find like, so the town accounts wouldn't be enrolled because you're already under an electricity contract. You might have like large manufacturers under contract. You might have residents already under contract. They would not be enrolled. It's only anyone who's not picked a retail supplier. How do we have that data? We get that data from the utility eventually. So, one of the really all, this boils down to in the end is this is optionality. So customers will still have the ability to sign their own contracts if they want. If they don't like the aggregation program that we developed, you can opt out at any time. You can opt out before the program starts. You can opt out during the program. If you just don't like the price that we come up with through the aggregation, you can opt out. There's no penalty for opting out. So really, it just provides another option for residents and other ratepayers in town. Important to mention, this is just the rate that's on your bill. National Grid or Eversource, depending on the town, but it would be National Grid in this case, remains your utility. So all the actual physical delivery of electricity, the poles, wires, billing stays the same. You still call National Grid if there's a power outage. Nothing changes about that. This is purely just the price of the electricity.
The supply rate.
The supply rate, correct. And in this case, Palmer will, through Titan Energy, select a retail electricity supplier. So what we would do, and this is Titan's role in the process, is once this aggregation gets to that step, we put this fully out to bid with the full electricity supply base in the state, run a competitive RFP, we come back with the results, walk through the options. It's not so much about the competitive RFP, it's about timing the market as well, which is one of the things that we pride ourselves in finding the good times to be buying energy. And then, ultimately we would recommend a contract. These are usually multi-year deals, so part of the thing that we're again, the timing is very important. The competitive RFP is very important for that reason, because it's, for all the sort of time and effort that comes into this, as well as the fact that really like rate stability is part of the goal here. These end up being multi-year contracts.
How many years usually?
What was that?
How many years usually?
Usually, so it, somewhere around 3 years, 2 to 3 years. We won't typically go longer than that. So yeah, just a 1 year contract. I think what we'd probably feel is we're just doing this again. We will do that though if we just don't like where electricity rates are. You just sign a shorter term deal and just kick it to the next year. This is approved by the DPU. We have to go through a pretty formal process to go through the Mass DPU of getting this plan personally reviewed. We have to we'll file a case number. It'll get approved, and ultimately they're going to vet this. So, and by the way, if you guys have questions throughout, like you don't need to save them. Just you can shout at me and go from there. So for those who aren't as familiar, this municipal aggregation concept has been around for quite a while in Massachusetts. So there's actually a lot of data now to support how successful they've been. The significant majority of these municipal aggregations are saving money against the basic supply rates that National Grid, Eversource, or some of the smaller utilities would have. Why is this? Because anytime these aggregation programs are working, you're running competitive RFPs across a fully vetted supply base, and you're using consultants and brokers like Titan Energy to time the market. So the savings have been significant. There's a variety of different studies that have backed this up, whether it's the DPU's own, we've had some other organizations running these. These perform very well over time. And that's in addition to the fact that these come with price stability. So, one of the things that if you're exposed to the utility rate model that you probably notice is these rates can go up a lot during the winter. They come down a little bit at this time of year, then they come back a little in the summer, down a little in the fall, and then they shoot back up in the winter. There's no real stability with that. And, one of the things a fixed rate will do is comb out any kind of peaks and valleys across the year. And again, lastly, it does still preserve your choice. You don't have to participate. You can opt out of these programs without penalty at any time before the program. And then during the program, if you like, and there's a whole customer service apparatus that we put together that, can kind of help explain that. Just to, be clear, before these aggregation programs even start, there is mailers sent out that it's just like a little postcard that says, here's an aggregation program Town of Palmer is running. It'll have the information on it, and basically it's a postage card that you send back if you just don't want to participate. So it's pretty hands off in that sense if you just don't. But I would say, I mean, you know, part of the benefit of these is instead of being an individual small business or resident, you're pooling together with everything else.
How do you know that there's enough residences in town to make it affordable or to make it worthwhile?
There's usually not a number that's not worthwhile. I mean, you know, it's kind of, you know, any aggregation of town accounts usually is enough to make a meaningful impact. So I you know, that's not the kind of thing that I would worry about. You know, I know Palmer's, you know, probably on average is a smaller than average town, but I would say, you know, even in that case, it's still going to be comparatively better than if, you know, you went out and shopped on your own.
Gotcha.
Doesn't everybody already have a supplier that they're locked in with?
No, I mean, I unless you've
You need to get it from
Well, yeah, you get it from the grid.
National Grid
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
some other supplier that you've picked.
We'd still
So-
get it from National Grid.
Right, from today's rate is $14.50 is
No,
the average
I
for
don't get it
Palmer
from
right
National
now.
Grid. I get it from somewhere else. I forget.
So you're one of the ones that have signed up for something else that he said you would not
you wouldn't
be
be
eligible to
included.
join.
If you've signed up with an electricity supplier,
Right.
you would not be automatically included. You can come in, you know, that there I should mention, and
I
either,
don't
you know, you
it's
can
a lot
enter
less
as
than
well.
what National Grid is that I got, so.
Right.
So that was gonna be my question, so if you're with National Grid and National Grid is the supply, or you just get one bill, National Grid, you haven't opted out with another company of all the ones that we get saying we're cheaper, blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Those are the people that are gonna be able to they'll be right into this program. So then you said, which I see, you cannot, if you don't want to be, you can opt out. So then you would just stay with everything through National Grid.
Correct.
But let's say you opted out and then you changed your mind. Can you then opt back in, or are you opt out for a certain period of time?
You can come back in. I mean, that's the way these things are work. I mean, behind the scenes, the way that we're kind of working these contracts is you're kind of building in like an add delete a number,
Okay.
you know, on both sides of
Yeah.
bandwidth.
Yeah.
And you know that allows for people to move in and out. You know what can sometimes get finicky is we've had, you know, so as you probably some of you remember, you know, a few years ago we had, you know, some pretty substantial increases in electricity rates where there was like mass movement in and out of these things, and that created some problems. But you know, because you know we've had other large towns that have kind of worked around that and tried to get town accounts in. I mean, it's usually on a residential basis or a small account, you're absolutely okay to move in. It's just, you know, if it was like a large manufacturer, you know, something like that, like very large, that might get a little bit more like, let's have a conversation. But you know, and I might be getting way too in the weeds even saying that. I'm just, you know, for the you know, standard residential customer, small business, medium business, you can enter and exit as you please.
So, and how does that work as far as like, who would the customer be dealing with?
We would have on our end, we would have a dedicated web page that will have all the information on this program. There'll also be a web page, you know, that you guys will have on your site that will have, you know, basically linking to our site.
Yeah.
It'll have all the customer service information, you know, who to contact if you have an issue. It'll still remind you that if you have an issue with your power, like if there's something going on where you're, you know, that National Grid's who you call.
But the opt-out process is pretty basic.
It's pretty basic, yeah. So we would have the customer service apparatus on our end, and
Okay.
it'll all be kind of spelled out. And there's, you know, basically Town of Palmer Municipal Aggregation website.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, because like I said, it's roughly around $15 for supply right now if you're with National Grid. What is the average savings? I mean, 80% is a large percentage that you have on the screen. Are you talking like real savings in supply, 80% per person, or overall?
No, that's 80% of programs have savings. That's not 80%.
Oh, not 80%. I got it. It's hard to read the.
Well, I mean, you can point to there's different studies, and obviously some of these are moving targets because we're dealing in commodities and the markets
Correct.
move. But
It's really volatile.
The one in Boston is, and you know, they're sort of, you know, using that one as an example, and that's obviously a very big aggregation, but. $200 average annual savings per household in that program. I mean, you can kind of equate something similar.
Right.
The savings have been pretty well documented, though. You know, beyond the stability. You know, so if the percent, you know, if I'm looking at the $200, if someone's saving 20% and you're getting stable rates for the, next 3 years and up, don't have to worry. I think there's an element that this market is reached a point of maturity where, like, this idea of people getting tired of either being telemarketed about an electricity rate and having to sign a new contract every year, like that does get, tiring for folks. And sometimes people will forget about their contract, and then it rolls to like this, variable rate that can be even worse than the utility. So there's sort of an element of having kind of the umbrella of knowing that the town through a consultant is working on this for everybody's behalf. Beyond, all the savings that we are going to find, I think that I should just mention that is part of the goal, is to kind of help take a little of this off everyone's plate.
Nice.
So my question is about earlier this year, the governor put in place a rate deferral for the state of Massachusetts. So that would not affect, if we're part of this program, that wouldn't affect our bills, right?
That rate deferral is on what is technically called the delivery side of the bill. So that's the rates that, it's the only place that National Grid or Eversource, essentially make their money back.
Okay.
So when they're deferring the rates, they're talking about the other side of the bill. This will just be the supply price.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that.
So I'll just move quickly through this. So yeah, just to, and I have some more numbers here to back up some of the things I was mentioned, but some key program features. It's, the town is controlling this. Town of Palmer, not individual residents, are negotiating the supply contracts, which does provide collective bargaining power for the entire community. There are no enrollment fees, no exit penalties. This works with any kind of customer. If you've got solar on your house and whatever energy you have left, it'll pick that up. Again, there's, if you just want to opt out, opt in, there's no penalties for that. It's transparent and regulated. This gets reviewed and vetted by the Mass DPU, which I think is important. And then with every one of these plans, there is a renewable energy option. It is an option. So, when we have this website set up, there'll be like a standard rate that you can sign up for. That will be what that's essentially an opt-in. So if a customer does nothing, you'll be opted into the standard electricity rate, but if you want to sort of opt up to the renewable option, there will also be that on the town dedicated website, which just means you're buying some portion of your power from renewable sources.
So what's the cost to the town, and how are you making money doing this?
I was gonna get there too. I was waiting for.
Yeah. So our fees are built into the electricity supply rate. Our fees are typically a couple tenths of a cent. So they're small, but built in. It's kind of how the whole brokerage model works. What was the first part of the question?
No.
You get paid.
That is how we get paid. Yeah. So
the first part was, what's the cost of the town?
Oh, what's the cost of the town?
So there's no cost to the town.
There you go.
Yeah.
Built into the.
How are you making your money?
Yeah, that is how we make we make our money. As our fee is built into the electricity supply rate. Again, 1 or 2/10 of a cent is kind of how that works.
Over 2 million customers makes whatever.
Correct. Yep. And then that handles all of our costs for filing and the management of the program and yeah, there's no cost out of pocket for the town.
So it's more win-win than anything else for the customer.
Correct.
Or the resident.
And the best part about it is it's all optional. You
Right.
can easily just opt out of this program if you are not interested.
I've been asking for this for a while, so I know.
Yeah, there's the majority of at this point, and for those who might be following, Massachusetts as a state is because there's such a big adoption of these programs, Massachusetts is starting to kind of move to trying to almost ban individual electric choice so that residents can't even pick a supplier because they're seeing so many of these. What was that?
This is imagine that.
I was like, imagine that Massachusetts trying to make it so you can't save some money.
Well,
yeah, there are unintended consequences. I'm not a fan of that. But these are doing most of the work, I will say.
And my mind thinks, and going even further to the extreme is, has there been like a group of communities that did this together?
Communities have done that. And
Yeah.
it is something that, could be talked about. It's obviously a little bit more legwork to kind of get it approved across communities, but there is additional buying power.
Yeah.
The DPU allows that.
Yeah,
There's
we
nothing preventing
actually,
it.
this is going back 2 years now almost, when you first brought this in, we had thought about having Munson join us. The problem is it
okay.
has to go to town meeting, I believe. It's not like they can adopt it
Yeah.
at a standard meeting, and I don't want to delay this even further.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm always like looking at,
Same
thing.
Ludlow has town meeting too. Everybody has town meeting. Yep, town meeting.
If
The
I'm not mistaken,
closest
Ludlow might
non-town
have-
meeting is
Yeah, some
Amherst.
of them
Special
they
as well.
scatter.
has one.
Western Mass is like the last outstanding.
Yeah.
So have you thought about county? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I'm just like,
Yeah, I mean, hey,
Scale it up.
statewide,
Scale
let's
it
go.
Yeah.
no, that's fine.
What do you mean by when, the last thing you just touched on under the renewable energy option, where you say higher percentage of renewable energy? Is that like greener or something?
Yeah, it's basically, it's essentially buying renewable energy credits, which is not directly buying. It's a complicated mechanism where there are credits kind of bought in the back end, and it's just an adder in the electricity price. So it's usually higher by a half cent per kilowatt hour to go the green energy route. We provide that as an option. It's not heavily utilized, I'll be honest. I think it's kind of come out of vogue as more people are just thinking the way to do it is installing solar at their own house or other things. But it is always an option for folks.
What people don't realize too is that a lot of the energy going into the grid is become a lot more greener over time. So when you say green, you're still getting solar, wind, and all that already wrapped up into the grid.
Correct.
So
The state of Massachusetts, as you I'm sure all know, has poured a lot of money into the renewable programs, and there's solar everywhere, and on the highway you could see it, and off the side of the highway, and there's been the programs have been very supportive of that. Renewable is just part of the options that we typically see.
I'm assuming we're not doing that. We're just doing the basic.
Yes, exactly. Because if you start getting to the renewable, it just eats away at the.
I understand
goal of
that.
what
I
you're
just
trying to
wanted, I was trying
Right.
to, yeah, okay.
So there's some other, just for everyone, some other numbers here that you can look at and kind of what average savings tend to be within these programs. Speaks for itself. These are never really a bad idea. It's just about getting these in place. So where are we in the process? So we went through. I know Brad introduced this. I think it was about a year ago.
October 2014 or 2024.
It's a year and a half ago. Introduced this, just kind of authorizing the development of the program, getting us to look into it. So we've developed this plan. We're now in kind of the public review period. So we were talking about the plan from here on out. The next step in this process is we need to put this plan up for public review for at least 30 days, and then there's going to be a public hearing period where people have a chance to weigh in and give their feedback. And then when we submit our final plan, which will be the next step 4 here to the DPU, part of our goal is to try to incorporate any feedback that we got through the public process. Probably, a lot of things we'll hear is some questions that I think we kind of got a little ahead of, like, can I get out of this? What are the fees? What are the penalties? So, we'll answer those all over again. It's usually not questions we haven't seen before, but you never know. That would be the next step. And then, once we get it filed with the DPU, we run an RFP. What officially happens after that, after the DPU approves the process, is National Grid gives us all of the data. So basically all the residential and small businesses that are not under contract, we get that data. That then allows us to submit the RFP. And then we'll come back with the results, walk through them, and then final approval would come from there.
I'm guessing like most programs along these lines, the more public involvement and participation is better.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the more feedback, the better. I mean, we want to hear, what people's thoughts are. It's part of the goal.
So our thought is to do a little bit of marketing and start the public 30-day window around July 1st. So we'll go July 1st through July 30th, close it. We'll talk about whether or not we want to have that hearing. It can happen during that 30 days, but we may wait, get the data for 30 days, then have the hearing. But more to come on that. But that's our thought right now is July 1st, we'll open up the survey period to get feedback.
we want to have it smack dab in the middle of summer to get everybody their
Yeah.
hottest, and sweatiest, and
worst
just
rate.
angry.
Run in their ACs. and
Highest
jacking up their
electricity
prices.
bill.
Exactly.
Yeah,
AC, what's that?
Exactly.
You got an AC?
You gotta be
Not
rich.
central. I know.
I got alternate current.
What's the time period from public review to program launch typically?
So once we have the RFP run to the program launch, that's, so that'll depend on when we want to get the program. Basically, depending on when the DPU gets back to us, we can get that bid out super quick, and if we like the rates, we can get that implemented super quick. That's the stuff we do every day. The waiting on the DPU is
What's the average wait time?
usually a few months.
So put us in a fall technically for a launch.
That would be ideal. Yeah, if we could get it done before this coming winter, and if the energy market, I won't get into it. Maybe when we have the next meeting, and we can go into some where the market's at. But it's in a good place right now, believe it or not. I know there's a lot going on in the world. It's having kind of adverse or paradoxical effects on the energy market. But if it stays that way, we would recommend doing something.
Now, you said you pride yourself on timing.
Correct.
Does that timing line up?
Well, you know what? There's a lot that could surprise us in between,
right.
and
So
that's
I'm
one of
just
those.
kinda curious,
That's
that's all.
one of those moments. We have midterms coming up, and who knows what that'll do.
I don't want any secrets. I'm just asking. Is it?
No, but when we
Yeah.
put out the RFP, we can
Yeah.
determine whether it makes sense. We may just walk from this or put it on hold.
Right.
I mean, we'll look at the rates and assess that.
Well, I'm
and-
sure as the broker, you will be like, "Hey, we know we can do better. Like, let's just wait."
I mean, one of the things is that if this program doesn't perform well, that's going to reflect poorly on us, and we don't want to sign at high rates either.
Right.
So if we see the market, we punt, we wait.
Right.
And there's no forcing anyone to sign anything.
They're in the business to make money.
Right. Obviously, the lower the rate they can get, the more they make on the back end. Technically,
I mean,
right.
let's face it. It's
No,
fact.
but Phil, they also too, going back to the numbers, like there's a history here. There's enough data that shows this does have a cost saving measure to it.
I'm not saying it didn't,
Yeah.
but I'm saying they're in it to make money, so they're gonna make
No matter what, the resident
the
is gonna
better
save
decisions
money.
they make, the more money that
Right.
they.
Right. Yes.
Well,
I
we
don't
make
think
the
it's
same.
they're gonna make.
I mean, I'll just be clear. Our fee is the same no matter what,
Exactly.
no matter like what the program does. But our reputation and us continuing to keep customers is more important to us. We've been around since 2001, and we take a lot of pride in handling a ton of. I actually should mention this. There's a.
I want to know. I heard you say
erroneous-
fees and penalties. What's that about? I know fees are what you're gonna
He
get.
said no penalties.
There are no fees or
There's
penalties.
no fees or no penalties for opting in or out. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I meant like the fees that our company makes are included in the electricity rate.
They're factored in.
Yeah, they're factored in.
Right.
Okay, can we
In
move
one
along?
second. Hey, so you have to come up, but, yeah, so when you put the RFP out, if the rates aren't good, you can just reject all the bids, correct? Okay. And then does the electric market work similar to like the bond market as far as like if something happens tomorrow? So like you put out the RFP because everything looks good, and then the day of the bids, somebody
rolls
said
up.
something overnight or did something overnight. Like, so similar to the bond market, right, with the stock market going up and down. So I know it's not the same, but is it similar how these type of things affect it also?
There can be moments of volatility that can impact energy rates, and most of the time it's pretty calm. Like over the course of a week, if we were doing this in the middle of winter, that especially this past winter, that would have we would have had prices pulled and the whole thing. We would have said just let's stop. I will say that one thing that differentiates the way that we do this, the way consultants like Titan Energy do this with the state, is the state puts out when National Grid or EverSource are buying electricity, they put out dates. They publish them like if they're buying electricity on June 9th, like they're buying it if it's good or bad. That's just their bureaucracies. They're set up like they just have a date and they buy it no matter what. They can get lucky sometimes where that's a good time, but a lot of times it's not a very intuitive way to buy. So like we have that nimble way of buying where we can punt and try to be strategic about when we buy.
Okay, Russ, go ahead.
I was just wondering, I've had people come to the house or call me about the electricity, and is this offer to everybody. What I mean is, I've had people say if your electricity bill is under $100, it's not even worth you changing over. I mean, I sweep a lot, Dennis Bakery, so my electricity bill's a little cheap.
So this would be a perfect plan for you because you don't have to worry about any of the, we wouldn't say that because everybody in the town gets included in this plan, no matter how, big or small your house bill is. So this would include everybody.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm sure smaller bill, smaller savings, but savings is savings no matter what, right?
I would argue that the smaller the account, probably the more they're helped by this, the buying power.
Percentage wise.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Thank you.
So, yeah, and again, I'll just, say quickly, that's where we are. We're 30-day public review, ahead of us is a DPU submission and launching the program. So that is it.
So is there a better time of year to do this
Well, you just want to give out a secret.
than winter?
We used to have this old thing about the shoulder seasons, as we call them, which was the spring and the fall were the best time to buy energy. That is, throw it out the window. The rules, everything is, we've had some, I don't know if you guys remember, but like a few winters ago, we had some like complete duds where it was like cold in December and then it was just mild the whole rest of the winter. Both those years, that was the best time to buy, January and February. So we used to have these hard and fast times that we'd say always buy in the fall and spring. Now we just use data, we use curves that we're looking at all the time, and we just try to find those opportunities when they come.
Okay,
Yeah. Great.
great,
Thank you.
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
I'm excited. It's a savings.
Do you have a card with you by any chance?
I can.
No, it's
let me
okay.
see, I might.
I want- she told me that.
Hope you learned a lot about our community.
Slide that to her, so it's in there.
Oh,
Right up there.
It's okay.
You're saying it's.
I'll get it from Brad. It's okay.
Yeah,
No worries.
I'll connect you guys.
Couple bucks.
Thank you.
That's all you're
I-
saying.
gonna say,
You're gonna make money, that's all.
somebody
Yes,
paying.
emails.
You're gonna make money. You're gonna save $2 on your electricity. You watch.
Okay. Next item,
And then you gotta chase it.
Resolution 2026-32 to approve free cash transfer of $2,012.21 for previous, bills of a previous year.
Oh, where is it? Where'd that go?
I asked this the last time. I'll probably ask it again every single time. This is previous year, but we're going into a new year now. So how did we misplace or not pay these bills this late in the game? I'm just kind of curious because we just did this the last meeting, and I'm not pointing fingers. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah.
I think these.
Well, I'll answer the pay-by-plate one. The pay-by-plate one, the negative on this is we called and asked for an update of, hey, can you give us everything that is outstanding?
What do we
Once
owe
they
as a
turn it
town?
over to collections, they don't have good information for you. So we're only getting these as they come forward, I think, from like collections, if I'm correct on this. But we called because last meeting I wanted to take care of all of them together.
Right.
Because again, it makes sense. I don't want to come to you guys every week every month with a new one. However, once they turn them over to collections, they, for whatever reason, Easy Pass doesn't continue to service the account to give you the data. So we only get it once we find that it's with the collection agency. That's the negative on that one.
So the invoices say that there's zero balance due. Is that because the collection agency pays the invoice, or?
It says the fees were adjusted out.
Or have these already been paid or not? No. Okay, so yes, then that must be the
Well,
answer.
That's what I'm thinking.
People without transponders,
The bills,
obviously,
the Easy Pass
because otherwise they would
bills
just
is
get paid.
zero.
If you got a
it's
transponder,
not.
Is
right?
that collections?
That's what,
Yeah.
that was my
So
question.
so the Easy Pass invoice is at zero because I'm not paying them. I'm paying the
collector.
collections company.
Got
Yep.
it. So these are the original bills,
Right.
or a copy of them.
A
right?
copy of
Got
them that took a couple weeks
It
to get.
obviously had to be created by somebody without an Easy Pass.
Well, the
So
plates
they
are-
didn't have the transponder. It was the
Correct.
pay by plate.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
didn't you say at the last
Okay,
meeting where
yeah.
you're trying to get everybody to have a transponder, well,
Yes,
now a
yes.
sticker, basically, right?
The other thing is, obviously, the bulk of it isn't for pay-by-plate, it's for JF Petroleum Group
Yeah, but let's
coming
just
out,
finish,
fixing.
right, let's just finish the pay-by-plate one first. So are we doing that, though? We're gonna, okay.
Now, is this the last bill?
No, we don't know.
I'm
But I
hoping
would,
so.
I would assume, like, have you reached out to that law firm or that collection agency, whatever that?
Yes.
Because they should know. I would assume they send them to the same ones every time, right?
Right, right, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I had to send in a fax for a request for the actual things. It was a tedious
I'm
process.
sure. Okay, now go ahead, Phil.
I was just saying, it's, majority of this is for JF Petroleum
Right.
Group.
This is the company that services the diesel fuel pump at the DPW.
Yeah, obviously,
If you look at the dates, they go back a long way.
The
So-
diesel
yeah,
and
I know you just started, so
Yeah,
I-
what
I'm
happened
not trying,
at-
I'm not trying to pick on you, but from
Yeah,
reading some of the things, it's like, you serious? That we're having them come out to replace a pump handle? That's,
Dude, is this unleaded and diesel? Because we have unleaded down there, right, for the cruisers and
Right,
stuff?
I
That-
think these are all for the diesel fuel pump.
It's all the diesel, okay.
right. He arrived on site, handle not working properly, inspected inside dispensary,
So-
determined that a spring was faulty.
So that's,
And they,
so that's
they
a-
Mickey rigged the spring to make it work. And then there's another one here about a nozzle
So,
nozzle
Phil-
leaking.
Phil, this started out with a small problem, and they said we owe $8,000 in previous invoices. So as you can see, I was able to pay $6,000 of the previous invoices, but $2,000 still remains. So we've paid them a absurd amount of money for repairs to that pump. So we're looking for a new solution.
Have we
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's outrageous.
have we determined though that these bills were real? That we just never paid all these bills in the past?
because I
Well,
mean, this one
Gabriella
here,
would have made
as I
sure
was
that
stating,
by the invoice
a leaky,
numbers.
I'm just
the nozzle was.
No, valid question.
Yeah, I was like,
I really
wow.
didn't want to finish, Matt.
I'm sorry. We go back and forth, Bill. It's all right.
You know, a leaky nozzle is something that we ought to be able to fix ourselves.
Yeah, I don't know if we can or we can't, but it seems like,
Yeah, it's basic.
yeah.
You go to, I forget what this store, I'm frazzled now, but it's nonsense.
What is this for?
So these
The diesel pump.
These are repair invoices for the diesel pump, and they go back as far as December of
Gas pump?
2024.
At the DPW, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, does the pump need to be replaced?
That's just for previous work.
No,
So-
I'm just saying
Oh,
in
I
general,
see.
like it might be
Uh,
cheaper.
There's a possibility. I don't know. I think we
Okay.
need to get somebody else to take a second look at it.
Besides this company.
But they did do this work.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah, and we do owe them money, and then
Yeah.
we have to look for something a
I'm,
little
yeah,
better.
Yep.
I'm going there. I'm just I'm sliding back to the,
Chris made a motion to pay the bill.
okay. So, motion by Chris to approve $2,012.21 from free cash to pay the prior year's invoices.
Second.
Motion- no, Yeah,
Second.
no, there was already a motion by Chris, second by Jess, all in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, perfect.
Thank you.
Can you what? What?
Yeah, we do.
You might as well just sit in the front.
When these repairs were done, you know, sometimes they came to the shop and they had to get parts too, they didn't have them on their van.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if there's dates on there, but they would come back again. And, that pump, that diesel pump, what would you say, Dennis, it's gotta be 25 years old?
I don't know how, but
Yeah,
it's certainly not
It's
new.
that old, so everything that they put into this pump, they gotta order. I think the pump itself went on the diesel
Yeah.
pump last year, and it took them just for it to come in.
So we sell it to American Pickers and get a new one.
Yeah, yeah.
So you're 100% right because I'm looking at this invoice. I see an overtime trip, one,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4 return trips at $175 a pop.
Yeah, right. That's what I'm
It's not
saying.
our fault they don't hold their stuff on the boat.
Yeah, I think down the road, they should probably, like everything else, look to upgrade that pump because it's so old. And also, the unleaded pump is probably the same age. It's just as old.
It's as old as us. I've seen it out there. I recognize them from when I was a kid.
Yeah, and I know that, before Dennis was here, they tried to upgrade that pump, the top half of the pump, and the brand new electronics that were put in burnt out. And then when they come back, they said they weren't compatible with each other, so they have to change something else.
Now I know where that $7,000 came from.
So,
Yeah.
my point is just that the pumps are very old, so, yeah.
Capital improvement.
Thanks.
There you go, Russ.
You need to look into a new contract. Russ, how much does a new one
Okay,
cost?
next item is the 2027 Town Council meeting calendar. So,
Yeah, that's good.
that looks great, doesn't it?
Yep,
Love
first
it.
Monday of every month.
Let's
Cool,
go. Motion to
awesome.
approve, great.
Chris, is that you?
That was Phil.
Sorry.
Second, all in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
We only have one holiday, one Monday
I
holiday.
know, I
this
know,
year?
I saw
That
that.
is
That seems crazy.
crazy.
Subcommittee reports?
Just the one that we postponed today, right?
Yep. Town managers report?
That's me this time, guys.
All right, so tomorrow's our annual election, tomorrow, June 9th. Polls are open from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Precincts 1 and 4, the voting location is Divine Mercy, located at 2267 Main Street in Three Rivers. Precincts 2 and 3, voting location is AMVETS Post 74, located on 2150 Main Street, Three Rivers. He just walked out, but thank you so much to DPW, Conservation, and Light Up Palmer for revitalizing the park near Depot Park, sorry. The plan consists of landscaping, improved maintenance, mulch beds have been excavated, and the mulch bed borders have been repaired. Lots of stuff's been cleaned up and moved. It looks awesome, and they're getting ready to put some planters with flowers in there too. Another shout out for DPW crew. The Ellison Playground Splash Pad in Bondsville is now open. As Dennis accounted earlier today, there was a lot of work that went into it, including paint refresh, electrical panels and controls. Hopefully the new system will eliminate problems we've seen in the past. And the hours for the splash pad are 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Just so everyone has it in their back of their mind, our new website will launch on July 1st. The team and I have been working really hard to go through the site and clean up some outdated information. So hopefully, fingers crossed, everything will be better than before. I can promise you that. Staff update. As we communicated with our current participants, the new VSO hours are as follows. Here at Town Admin Building, the VSO will be here Monday 1 to 6, Wednesday 9:30 a.m. to 1 p.m., and Thursday 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. They'll be in Ludlow Monday through Thursday from 9 to 5, and Fridays from 9 to 12 noon at their building located at 487 Holyoke Street. To connect with Eric, Larry, or Mike, email veterans@townofpalmer.com or call 413-283-2610. Upcoming events. It's busy around here, which is awesome. As Stephanie said, Community Strong Wellness continues to run at the library. Their next date is the 18th. A bunch of the community groups have gotten together to pull together a Celebrate Palmer 250 event. First, there'll be a time capsule burial here at 9 a.m. with Ms. O'Brien's 5th grade class to coincide with the existing time capsule that is currently outside. Then at the Palmer Historical Cultural Center, there'll be a formal reading of Palmer's Declaration of Independence at 11 a.m. Fun fact, we had our own before the big one was presented. Then the library is hosting a semi-quincentennial shindig in the afternoon from 1 to 3. And we'll have a food truck at the library for folks to grab a bite to eat in between festivities. Conservation is hosting a pollinator garden day from 4 to 6 on the 25th here in the parking lot at the Admin Building. This is a really fun one that was able to come together with help from the Palmer Rec Conservation and Chicopee Forwarders Rivers watershed on Saturday, the 27th, for a fun day at Forest Lake. In the morning, there'll be a fishing clinic, and then in the afternoon, a boating clinic. Reservations are required, so check out the events on the community's event calendar on our website, and feel free to call us with any questions. And last but not least, special congratulations to the class of 2026. There's been some graduations happening this past week over at the high school and Pathfinder.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay. Miscellaneous correspondence. I did receive an email about American flags. Brad also received it. I assume that has been taken care of. Thank you. Counselors Roundtable.
I would just like to remind / recommend businesses who are on our main roads to maintain their properties. I've spoken with the Board of Health recently, and that she's been in the process of sending letters out to people who are not maintaining their properties. That includes, garbage, things on the curb, grass that hasn't been mowed yet. We are known as the central part of this, state, in that you have to go through Palmer, to go anywhere, technically, north, south, east, or west. And, we'd like to make sure that the town is as presentable as possible. So I would like to encourage business owners to maintain their properties, especially on main streets. And if you're a residence, that's also included, because letters just don't go out to businesses. They can go out to residences too, so.
Yep.
But she did say that she sent out numerous letters within the last week for properties that are not being maintained properly, so. Which is a Board of Health issue, because it can harbor rodents and
Pests.
plagues and pests and all that, yeah.
Plagues, you can get the
Yeah, we don't need that,
plague
so.
by walking through some grass.
Yes, so I'm joking around with that, but yes, it is a health issue. So I just would hope that, people in this town, I know we get a lot of volunteers that come out to clean up, to Palmer, clean up, and, it's the little things like mowing your lawn and making sure your property's nice to help maintain our image of our nice
Yeah,
town.
absolutely.
Anybody else? Okay. We are going to adjourn our formal session. We are going to go into executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Number 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. This is for union negotiations. Palmer Police Dispatch, UFCW, Local 1459, and DPW Administrative Unit, UPSEU, Local 424M. Also, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. This is for 24 Converse Street. I so declare. We will adjourn from executive session. We will not return to formal session. Do you have a motion?
Make a motion.
Motion by Jess, second by Carl. Roll call vote. Matt?
Yes.
Carl?
Yes.
Bill? Chris?
Yes.
Jess?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Okay, good night.
Thank you.